by that back judge who he ran down.
After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct, 15-yard penalty.
3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. You know what time it is. It's time for some unsportsmanlike conduct here on WMEB 91.9 FM out of Orono, Maine. Some UMaine and professional athletics talk coming your way. We got a lot to get through, so of course we'll just start getting right to it. Brandon Polite, Alex Quirk, and the rest of the WMEB sports crew over there in Studio B. Cody LaChance, Adam Darling, and Mike Schumann. Guys, how was your weekend?
Good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
A little good, a little bad, a little hot, and a little bit of cold.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
we're
and
not
no.
going to start that again. All right,
We are going
little
to.
left shark.
Yes, we are going to.
a little left shark. For the first segment, which is of course going to be Maine hockey, we're gonna got a lot to talk about, so we're gonna try to concise it. And really, this wouldn't have been a weekend to talk about if it weren't for some senior night heroics by the Maine Black Bears.
From a freshman, really.
Yeah, from a freshman.
Oh yeah, who is the rookie of the week? Might I add, if you look on Hockey East,
Absolutely.
Nolan Vesey.
Absolutely.
Forgot to mention that to him when I was talking to him today. I forgot about that.
Well, the first game of the series, Maine came out looking quite flat. A quick deficit led to a sort of attempted comeback, and unfortunately, nothing doing there for the Black Bears, who dropped the first game. I think what was the final score?
6-4.
6-4.
But Red doesn't want you to talk about the comeback.
I was going to say, I wish I had the soundbite prepared. Yeah, he said afterwards.
Don't you dare write about the comeback in the third period.
Yeah,
Don't you do it.
That's what I was trying to get at. Was it was an attempted comeback that ended up falling short because all it really did was make the fans go home feeling like, oh wow, well maybe we stand a chance against this team if we could play like that.
Well,
but of course you always get into the trouble of using the ifs and the buts, like, oh, if Maine played like they did in the third period of that game, they'll win Saturday night. Granted, they did, and they did, off of a heroic hat trick from freshman Nolan Vesey. Maine downs Northeastern 6-3 on senior night. The first win, I think, since our freshman year on senior night.
Yep. March, whatever, 20. Yeah, so essentially the 2011-12 season, a couple last time it happened were broken. Last time a hat trick was Matt Mangine against Boston College in January 2012. You obviously remember that game like I do, Brandon.
Oh, absolutely. And
then, of course,
I was wondering when the last time I saw a hat trick was. And I remember seeing it in person, and it was Matt Mangine. All I'm gonna say is, I mean, not that any of us are into superstition here or anything like that, but the last time those two things happened, where Maine won on senior night and someone scored a hat trick, I mean, that was the same year we made it to the Hockey East Championship. So
it was officially March the 3rd at Alfondra. I remember that because I watched it. I came up with my dad, and that's where the first time I got the experience of noticing how expensive seats were at the Alfond. When it was $50 for a chair back, so we had to settle for 3 bleacher seats, and it was the worst experiences I could remember.
The bleacher seats underneath the student section are the same price, but are pretty good. Like I'm pretty sure like a single ticket. Granted, it's not that great of a deal, but in comparison, like I think it was like $25 to $28 for one seat.
Well, we were section BB.
Ew. I only like whenever I am a non-student seat, I always pick right underneath the student section because they're a good mixture.
Enough.
They're a good mixture of cheap, and they're also very good seats. That's where I sat when I brought my girlfriend last year to her first game, which was actually a 7-0 rout of BU, which was awesome.
But I guess we'll bring it back here. I mean, just the way I look at Friday night first is just they came out to a flat start. Their defense was horrendous.
That's what
comically I was gonna say hilarious, but comically horrendous. How bad they played.
Yeah, comically hilarious is a little bit of a.
But horrendous, and just really, like I said, you put yourself down in a 4-0 hole. But I mean, and I don't want to usually back the fans because sometimes fans can be a little bit delusional. But in all honesty, and even like what Jim Madigan, the Northeastern coach, said after night one was just, I don't like the way we played in the third, and I just thought to myself, well, yeah, if you don't come out and give up 4 goals to begin the game, who knows? Maybe you could actually win a game.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about, I think, was the defense needing to step up, mainly because Northeastern in that first period of the first game last weekend, or this past weekend, it looked like you could see
it was effortless.
The skill differential. It looked like, I tweeted this after the first period, it looked like an NHL team versus an amateur team or like a juniors team. It was just so effortless from Northeastern, just skating into Maine's zone, getting through. It's not like Maine had not that many people on defense. It was like 3-on-3, and they were still getting beat every time, leaving Matty Moe out to dry on every single break to the net, and it's so painful to watch. And I think the difference that Maine made, well, of course, was putting in Romeo. Because when you put in a different, I've said this, I've played this to death so much. But when you put in a different goaltender, the defense is going to play different in front of them, especially if they're playing like crap in front of a certain goaltender. I don't know if it's just a mental thing, but they played better in front of Romeo. And some would argue, and I would argue as well, they played better in front of Morris on Saturday night because I think they found the way to kind of curb Northeastern, and that's to play them physical. A fast team like that, you want to slow them down, you want to tire them out. Give them a little shove into the boards. Make them think about going at warp speed into your offensive zone by making them kiss the glass a little bit, and that's what they did. They started playing a lot more physical in the first game, and it showed up again in the second game. There's a lot of physical play, and it slowed down Northeastern. It gave Maine a chance, and that's why I think the comeback started to become mounted, because it was easier for Maine to see what they wanted to do when they slowed down Northeastern.
Yeah, and I think that's testament to Maine starting to play their game. In the very beginning of the first period and maybe a little into the second period, they were Northeastern's. You hit it right on the head there. The way they entered the zone, the way they just had their way with the Maine defense in terms of just odd man rushes, and Maine allowed so many shots from the right near the hash marks, deep in the slot, uncovered. They had plenty of time to make those plays. And when you give a team as talented as Northeastern, they have 3 or 4 lines that are deep with guys who can put the puck in the back of the net. And when that happens, you're going to give up goals when you give away grade A scoring chances like that every other play. And I think just from the shot charts, Alex, you probably have those in the first period.
Of course.
I think 3 of those goals are right up front.
Pretty much. Oh yeah, 3 of the goals are point blank right on him, and even the 4th one, which is from Dylan Sakura, is just sort of right on the line. So pretty much all their 4 goals were grade A scoring chances. They imposed their will. Though I would say Aston Reese's shot is a little off, because I remember Aston Reese's, I believe it was Aston Reese, if not. Yep, it was. That was the one where Rutt tried to play it like a ground ball. It just sort of zips by him.
Yeah.
And then the part that made it worse was he then, instead of trying to chase after the puck, tries to hit. I do not even remember. It was Snyderman. He tries to lay out the hit. He misses. And at that point, it becomes a 3-on-1. I cannot remember the lone defenseman who is sort of left down the 3-on-1.
Riley.
Yeah, Connor Riley.
But I mean, either way, I think that's more of a testament to Snyderman's skill, because in that situation, if I'm Jake Rutt, I'm just going to try to play the body and hope he doesn't get by me. But Snyderman just kind of sidesteps him and shuffles right around him. And I think that's a testament to the team speed that Northeastern had. They were so fast. It was crazy. I remember trying to think on one of the power plays where I'm trying to remember who it was. Had a breakaway. It may have been Blaine Byron, and Kevin Waugh just incredible closing speed, just tracks him down and takes the puck right off him.
No, I remember that, and I'll remember the sequence as such. It was Cam Brown makes the play right on the blue line. Problem was he had so much momentum going in the other direction. He had to take a second to stop.
He had to flip it to Byron.
Yeah, well, I mean, on top of that, he had to gain his balance. So yeah, I remember that. But even then, I thought of the Vermont game where Byron just walks in on a breakaway and just Kevin Waugh alone on the back check made that play, probably saved the game. But I will say my talking point real quick I had, and I asked Madigan, was just even when Maine made it an interesting game, which is right after the Connor Lean goal, and then right about in the final 3 minutes or so, Maine's threatening, and in fact it was the 20-30 seconds before they even score. Maine was so close to getting that second goal, and then Northeastern walks in on the far side. Stevens finds Smatula, and he just buries it 5-hole in Romeo. And pretty much at that point put the dagger in. It was just, Maine came so close, and every time Maine showed any moment of life, Northeastern just put it to them. They just threw him right back down.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a tough team to beat, and that's what tough teams are going to do. They're relentless, and this is something we've talked about that Maine needed to be doing all year was, finish the game and keep attacking, go for the jugular. And I mean, the Northeastern Huskies went for the jugular in the first period. I mean, when you put a team down by 4 goals in the first period, that's a win. You can just chalk that up right away. I mean, credit to Maine for playing a heck of a third period, but it was just too little too late.
Unless you're Brady Campbell and missed a wide open net.
Now, that's an interesting thing, because that play, I think that's just it's happening so fast, pressure situation, and, he just kind of hooked it. They caught too much of the blade of his stick, and he just throws it wide. I think we all, in the broadcast booth, we all thought he scored. And then you kind of just see the puck trickle away around the boards. But he threw that in towards the net with a lot of speed, and, he didn't really have anyone to block him except himself.
I was going to say, that one was even easier than the one he scored, which was like, he had to make like a diving play. But, just like you said, and I'm not saying that if Brady Campbell scores that goal, Maine could have at least stole a point. But, at that point when Maine scored their fourth goal of the game, which is 18:37, you think, okay, 90 seconds left. We're only down by a goal. But that's, shoulda, coulda, woulda. And then I think one of my other points was, even if Campbell scores that goal, who's to say Northeastern would have just come back 30 seconds later and made it put on one there anyway. But just, that's one thing that'll stick out to my mind. It's not like, the be-all, end-all of the weekend, but, it stands out because, just what could have been. And obviously, like I said, at this point when you only have 4 games left and every point matters, as we'll not get into much today as we will more on Friday's show for UMaine pregame, which you can hear 1 to 3. But in this case, obviously, it's big game. And obviously, Northeastern equally as much battling for position like we are. Northeastern, who's battling for a top 4 position, let alone us who are just trying to get home ice in 2 weeks or at this point a week and a half. Northeastern still got a lot to go. It seems like we seem to have really knocked them down a peg. They're 6th right now, but 1 point away from being tied in 3rd place in the 3-way tie up above us.
Yeah, definitely it's important for both teams. And, coming down the stretch, Maine's got a tough road series against Providence. And I do believe if we do hold on to 8th, which we're currently in right now, we will have home ice.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, Mike.
In the first round.
If the Maine hockey team happens to have more points in the standings than New Hampshire, I would agree with you there, Mike, that they would be 8th.
Very good. So, I mean, that's just got to happen. That's got to be, a thing that's going to happen. And, I mean, we were talking about scenarios where Maine just needs to win a game and New Hampshire just needs to win a game. So if both Maine and New Hampshire split, then we have 8th.
Yeah,
and that's it.
I think there's some very oddball scenario, but somehow we could end up in like 7th place, but it would require BU sweeping Northeastern, us then sweeping Providence, and like I said, there's a whole bunch of things. So pretty much, realistically, we're not looking we've plateaued as far as we're going to get in the standings.
And that's what I said earlier, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think maybe in the Notre Dame series. I don't see Maine going any higher than 8th, and I'd love for them to sweep Providence. I honestly think they can do it. I think Providence has had a down year. I don't think they're as good as people think they are.
They're tied for 3rd.
I don't think they're as good as that. I really don't think they're as they're a very beatable team.
And also, I would agree with you, they're not as good as people thought, being how, according to the preseason polls, which, as Brendan and I both know how much those things actually mean because we've emphasized how much they don't mean, but they were picked, I think, in both polls to be number 1.
Right.
And obviously, they're not going to win. I believe BU officially clinched the regular season title last weekend.
Can I just bring up an interesting fact that I just found out?
Go.
That I just realized was that Saturday night, Northeastern started their goaltender Derek Waugh.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the Hockey's website and realized that he was last month, January 2015, the Stop It goalie of the month.
Oh.
So that's pretty funny.
That's a
and
fun
I mean,
fact.
when you play a team like Northeastern with
there he is,
two
right there.
really solid goaltenders, Clay Witt and Derek Waugh, I think that's a good preparation for John Gillies on the road, because Gillies is tough as nails between the pipes.
Will you put that many goals up on Waugh? I mean, that's got to be good enough practice.
So I mean, I don't know. Maine just needs to have senior ceremony every week, because I don't know. In watching them play that second game, that first period, so much energy.
Okay.
It was incredible to watch, because they got the building behind them right away, and that's something we hadn't seen almost all season. I think that was the best start to a game Maine's had all season. They just came out firing on all cylinders.
And then it was right around because it wasn't a TV game, but I think it was just some stoppage with 8 minutes left in the period, and then the dynamic changed. So yeah, I guess we'll segue over to just Saturday night where Maine would win 6-3. So Nolan Vesey getting the start. I would say just the goal itself, and I will probably be one of the only goals I will have imprinted in my mind of that game, was Dan Renouf lays out a back check, a guy on the forecheck, finds Devin Shore on the far side, who then finds Nolan Vesey right in front on an open net, and it was a great goal
not to
all
mention
around.
Shore just dangling the heck out of Waugh, and then just slides it over to Vesey, taps it into the empty net. I mean, even Vesey in the post-game when we talked to him, I really wouldn't call it a press conference, but
interview
of that first goal, he just said, "Yeah, Shoresy did all the work for me. I just had to tap it in." So it was great to see Vesey just be so successful, and I think a lot of these goals were just hard work, off of rebounds and just getting it done.
I say Reniff just on the forecheck, he didn't even knock him down. He just sort of
bumped him off the puck, which was a huge play. Reniff, that's something we didn't see a lot, like defensemen just stepping up and being really successful.
And on the Shore goal, I wouldn't say as much he dangled. It was just he got a pass that was a little bit ahead of him, so he just sort of had to reach out, so he brings it back. Waugh doesn't see it because, if you're Derek Waugh and you see Devin Shore or anyone with a C on their sweater right in front of you, you think, oh, shot. Oh, and hey, there's this freshman kid right now who's just got fed the puck, and I'm completely exposed. It was a great, as you would say, Mike, a hard-working goal that really just Maine did a great job. But then Northeastern, almost like night before, though it took them a while, would get on the board as it was, I believe, a rebound. Yep, it was. The shot was taken by Dustin DeRue or John Stevens, and just hits off Morris's pad, and he just finds wide open Dylan Sakura, who got his third goal of the weekend there to make it 1-1.
I was going to say that goal was very similar to the goal that Northeastern, their first goal they scored on night one. There's just kind of a rebound play, and the rebound just kind of squirts out to the side of the net. And Sakura, right place, right time. And he had a very good weekend. He's a very solid offensive player for the Huskies, but
and then
Maine was actually able to neutralize them for most of the game.
Then this time around, Maine ends up countering very quickly. About 1 minute, 8 seconds afterwards, Connor Lean on a beautiful feed cross ice from Eric Scherhammer, someone you don't see exactly lighting it up on the score sheet, though I guess apparently has 8 assists on the season. He just finds him on the far side. Lean goes streaking in. Does he beat him 5-hole? I think that's what happened. He shot it low, and it just sort of trickled
I think
the
that's
padding.
what he said. He went 5-hole.
Sort of a diving shot, really, and it was a great play by Lean to make it 2-1, and then from there, Maine would begin to run away with it. Nolan Vesey would get a second goal. Another, I believe, Eric Scherhammer assist as
Nope, Swavely and Shore got the assists.
Oh yeah, I do remember.
Because that was Shore's 100th point, but then it got totally snuffed. The celebration got snuffed by a goal that was scored like 9 seconds later.
But but regardless, I just remember Vesey had a great goal in the second where just, it was a Merchant throws the initial shot on net, then Shore throws one on net. They're both stopped. I think, somehow it hits Swavely, and then Vesey, who once again just right place, right time to just bury a rebound. So, sometimes that's just how it works. You're in the right place, right time. I've said that about Hayes' 3 goals. You just got to be pretty much camped out in front of the goalie, and a rebound's just sitting there for you. You just got to bury it.
Yeah, especially in those situations, you want to have like layers of offense almost. You're going to come out with, Shore taking the first shot, then it goes to Swavely, and then Vesey's next. I mean, if you can kind of attack the net in waves like that and just kind of have guys that are just kind of waiting for the puck and then go attack it once they see it loose, you're going to end up scoring goals. And the same thing with defense. I think hockey is very much a game of layers. It's like an onion, if you will. Hockey's an onion. You got to just have layers upon layer of each, both defense and offense. And I think the layers were working in Maine's favor tonight.
And as mentioned, Devin Shore getting his 100th point, though not in the sequence I predicted. But anyway, I just felt like
close.
I felt like bringing cookies anyway, just because technically, if the bet was correct, you were supposed to bring cookies.
I know. I was gonna say it was interesting. I walked into cookies and I was like, well, why would Alex buy his own cookies? But hey, you'll take it.
But anyway, so he would get that. So 9 seconds later, like I said, not even after a chance to really, I believe the goal call was still being, or the PA was still announcing the goal as McMurtry beats him 5-0. So essentially, I would say, a much deserved moment for Devin Shore, who did have the banner shown there after he got his 100th point, but obviously very short-lived as Maine back to work quick. But
ogres are like onions.
They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
That's exactly what I was thinking of when I said that. I was like, oh man, I was just waiting for it.
Dude, don't try to out reference the reference master.
I was gonna say hockey can make you cry. I mean that it is true.
And it does stink. I mean, when the players come out of the tunnels and do that and like create like a wind tunnel, it blows right up into the students. They don't smell that good.
I was gonna say, I would say from hanging around the locker room after games, yeah, the pads that have been soaked in sweat for a few hours aren't exactly the.
Sports equipment always is just the worst. I hate it. It's gross.
I would say no one could be like a swimmer. You just
Any more wrapping up points in the final 7 minutes of the
Oh,
segment?
what? What was that?
Well, I was gonna say
waking me up over here.
Well, no. I said
I heard
not
something over there.
I said not everyone can be a swimmer. You just got a Speedo. I mean, or a towel. I mean, like you said, you don't have like all this sweaty equipment.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, no, don't even.
Swim locker rooms are this one particularly because the swim locker room doesn't really
Wallace
get
pool?
cleaned as much as other locker rooms,
Ew.
unfortunately. So
I can only imagine.
just
The
imagine
smell of just imagine the smell of the chlorine.
not only the chlorine, but it's like we still lift during the week too. So, or I used to lift during the week too. So it would be like sweaty gym clothes mixed with chlorine and God only knows what else. Plus, it's attached to the actual public locker room for the Stanley M. Wallace pool. So you get all the smells coming from the male's bathroom in Stanley M. Wallace.
Oh, the best.
Right.
Good combo. Good
No,
combo.
it is not. It just gets really rank in there.
No, I bet.
But for regardless of that, anyway, so stinky pads. Hey, so Devon Shore, and something that we don't usually see much from Devon Shore, he gets a slap shot, and my goodness, I say, Brandon, you were there. Just that slap shot, my goodness.
I couldn't see.
Actually, you know what Slapshot I don't think we forgot to mention
Well, Ben
was that
Hutton's.
bomb by Ben Hutton. Oh man, he tattooed that thing. I think that was for me
Night
was
one?
the goal. Night one, that was the goal of the weekend.
Absolutely.
Puck sitting right at the top of the that far circle. He just takes 3 strides into it, raises that stick so high and just wham, top shelf. It was awesome.
And if anything, I would almost say, and actually for Brandon, I was
So
making the comment
cool.
that I didn't always see it from Hutton. The only reason why I say I give Shores the better is because, A, you don't see Devon Shore usually take these kind of shots, let alone the fact he was doing a good job. He was covering.
He's usually more of the finesse goal, yeah?
Not just finesse, but I mean more in case in the scenario is I believe it was Hutton was pinching down low, so because of that on the play it was just an extra even strength. Is Devon Shore was playing the point to play defense, as a defenseman, at back, so you don't see him taking a lot of shots on the point. He just teased that thing up. I believe he went top shelf. It was a great goal, let alone the fact it happened right in front of us.
Yeah, no,
from my perspective.
going back to Hutton's goal, that was the goal that kind of changed my outlook on the weekend. Like, okay, we can win tomorrow, because he was just right place, right time, saw it coming right for him, and you could just see his eyes light up. Like he's just like, yep, this is. As soon as I saw him coming for him, like, this is it. This is a goal. There's no way he's not scoring here. It was too quick for anyone to stop, and that hyped me up a little bit.
And then Nolan Vesey in the third period. Well, I'll say then later in that period, Devon Shore would almost appear to get a second goal, but it would be waved off due to a hand pass, which we still do not know exactly who a hand passer was.
And
but
we never will, because they'll never release any replay ever.
But we believe it would be Blaine Byron, because if I recall, it was a power play goal. I remember it because the guy was just in the penalty box dead, no idea what to do, because, essentially I believe it was Byron in the slot just sort of knocked it down, and of course, it landed Shore, and as we saw prior, when Devon Shore rips a slap shot, it's kind of a little too quick to blow the whistle without people going nuts that someone scores a goal.
Yeah, that was kind of an unfortunate play, and I remember just even me being really confused. But the fans in front of us were
more knowledgeable.
We're all celebrating, and then they were just kind of just clueless. None of us knew. I didn't see it and it go off a hand. Obviously, I don't think it was a deliberate hand pass. I think there was a shot by Steven Swaley, rebound popped in the air, probably just glanced off the glove of Byron right before it settled for sure.
Unfortunately, referees do not see intent half the time when they.
Oh, right, and it doesn't matter, to be quite honest.
But so then
it's still a call you have to make.
Though I would say one thing is I'm glad that didn't usually waiver Maine, as that usually will happen here, but just Maine manages to score a couple more goals. As Vesey would get the official hat trick, which funny as Brandon said the same thing. I want to thank you, Mike. Otherwise, I would not have realized it was a hat trick goal.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
I was patting my head. I was like, "That's Vesey's third." He was celebrating like
I was like,
the hat trick. I haven't seen. That's so cool. See all the hats fly over. I hadn't seen that yet.
I had never seen it either. Like even when Mangine scored, I'm pretty sure people were afraid because they thought they were going to get in trouble. I would have thrown my hat if it wasn't necessary for the cold weather and also $40. But if I had
sacrifices. There's no Lion team.
Then again, I'll say Brandon, sacrifices for $40. You thought you were going to lose the hat? It's only a Celtics hat, man. Come on. It's not like you have like a
Whoa!
I think the Boston Celtics are in a better situation than the Boston Bruins right now. That's a different story.
Yeah, Bruins are on a heck of a slide. We won't go
Anyway,
there.
But regardless,
We
yeah,
need
I
Luke to
definitely
pull
there was
him out.
definitely
when you've got the Florida Panthers creeping up on you,
That's a bad sign.
No.
well, no, but anyway, so
It
regardless,
was cool to see. I was like, the people in the students are just tossing it over the net. I'm like, and I was getting all nervous. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's only his second, guys. What are you doing? And then I was like, and then my roommate was looking up the box score. He's like, no, dude, that's his third. And I'm like, oh wow, I wasn't paying attention.
then just grab your roommate's hat and throw it.
He didn't. No.
Yeah, there was definitely-
We needed. It was cold out. It was snowing.
There was
We
definitely
needed those.
there was definitely a 20-second period before people realized, oh hey, it's a hat trick, and then you started seeing them rain down. There was definitely
was
a period.
so
You can still
cool.
get your hats that you throw on the ice, right?
Yeah, but it's like on the lost and found, so God only knows if.
Yeah,
you'll
it's sort of
be
it's
the
up
first one
it's
there.
sort of
a
up to the
free-for-all.
it's sort of up to the honor system, which doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But
Plus, I don't know
Stop
where the
putting so
lost.
much faith in
I have
people.
no idea where the lost and found is located anyway. So.
And even when Northeastern tried to make it interesting, Maine managed to score an empty net goal that led to all confusion, as I had no idea what was happening. I guess someone broke his stick, which led to an unsportsmanlike conduct call. But either way, Devonshire gets .102 and his 13th goal in the season. Black Bears win 6-3. I say we should probably wrap it up soon. It's almost 3:30 here. Just really final thoughts on the weekend before we get to predictions and whatnot.
It gives me a little bit of optimism going into this weekend, but not a lot because I'm the pessimist old man, grumpy senior.
I'm partially up there with you, but I'll get to that in a second.
I've got a lot of optimism. This was awesome. I was just so
He's so young.
impressed.
So naive.
Oh, not nice. I guess I'm just a natural optimist. I don't know. Like that game
You'll learn.
was awesome.
You'll learn someday.
I don't think they're
Everything
gonna
is
go to Providence.
awesome.
I don't think they're gonna go to Providence and sweep. I mean, Providence is. I mean, while I said they're not as good as people think they are, they're
still
still a
third.
good team.
They're still third place.
Yeah, and you can't argue with that. But I think that if Maine had lost this game, I would have just been like, yeah,
Throw it-
not
throw it
good.
in the
But
towel.
hey, this is you know,
Here's my issue, though.
this is good.
I-
They're going somewhere.
I was in the
think.
same position as you.
A year ago?
A year ago, 2 years ago. Well, not 2 years ago. That's a lie. I've been doing this for years, where Maine has given me hope,
You're
and
sold.
I predict that
Sold your soul to the devil.
no, none of that.
I'll keep playing over here.
His sad.
It's a
He's
sob
playing a
story.
sad violin for those of you who can't see, which is all of you because it's radio. I've just learned to not get my hopes up, and then if something good does happen, then yay. But I don't know. I'll just come out and say what I think. I think we're gonna go into Providence expecting a huge weekend, and we're gonna get swept.
And here's my thing about it, just from watching this team all year and whatnot, and years past. And I will say, I need to go back and listen to the tape of where we were 1 year ago today on, what was it, Tuesday at 5 o'clock, whatever it was last year, when we were talking about this. The only thing about it where I would say I side a little bit with Mike, not as much as Mike, but I will say I side with him more than you, Brandon, is we came into that after a 1-point weekend against Northeastern. We were expecting at least 2. Arguably should have had at least 2 points against
You mean Notre Dame?
No, I'm talking about Northeastern. So the second final weekend. When
Oh wait, is this last
year?
Yeah,
Okay.
a year ago
All right.
today.
All right, excuse me. My bad.
Actually, it is a year ago today because it was a Tuesday show, and now it's today Wednesday. So yeah, 1 year ago when we were talking about this exact scenario going into the final weekend. Granted, circumstances were a lot different. When we look at a team that is 8-10-2 at home versus a year ago, they were 13-1. 13-1 at home versus 8-10-2. We were talking about. So things were a little different.
And you could also point at the officiating or whatever, but that doesn't make
But
it an
at the end of the day,
excuse.
the referees weren't the reason that team was down. 4-3 at that point. That team sort of.
but they certainly helped.
It
but
was the
I get
it
you.
was the straw that broke the back. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But my point being, you get a big win towards the end of the year. Well, like I said, you need to start winning some games. Obviously, they did lose a bad one, but even then, like I said, Friday was, and I will for once agree with the fans that arguably if they just had not played the way they did in the first period of Friday night's game, we could have looked at a sweep or even a 3-point weekend for the Black Bears. The way they played most of the weekend was a solid game. They just, unfortunately, that's the big thing.
Unfortunately, it's split up into two parts.
To bring back,
Well,
to
yeah,
bring back our
exactly.
metaphor or our new thing, the hot and cold. Well, unfortunately, they were ice cold at the beginning of the game, and they sort of warmed up for the rest of the series there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the year when you're playing these good teams, and especially in the playoffs, I mean, you can't have a bad period. Maine had a bad period on night one.
They didn't have a bad period. They had a really bad period.
They had a terrible period.
fu-
I mean, and in the playoffs, that's enough. That could lose you the series right there.
All right, are we going to go through all of our predictions now, or are we going to wait till Friday to do that?
Well, I
Let's
mean-
do them now because we have more people here.
Well, I mean, I will say this real quick. So, yes, the game's Friday night here is Providence. A chance of revenge here for the Black Bears. Obviously,
There's a lot of bad blood.
for both what happened at the Alphon and obviously the fact that Providence did end our season last year. So, obviously, there's a bit of tension and whatnot. I'll get into my thing as I talked to a few guys earlier today about that. But just obviously a chance for the Black Bears to pretty much hold their own, get home ice, so that way the middle week of break, it'll make all our lives easier just trying to get equipment back and forth, let alone the fact trying to find lodging somewhere in either Durham
And not
or
wanting to go to South Bend.
Durham. Well, no, we're not even talking first round at this point. We're just talking, first round. Because pretty much
We're not talking first round. We're talking first round,
well,
is what you just told me.
we're not talking about,
Regardless.
down the road, because pretty much Notre Dame at this point is battling for a top spot. We're just looking to, host. If not, we would be going to Durham or even potentially Hartford for the first round. So a lot's up in the air. Like I said, simplest is Maine needs to win and New Hampshire has to lose one. Everything else does not matter. That's literally as simple as it gets.
It was as simple as last year when we dropped 2 games at home.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's painful.
But I guess, yeah, so
Let's not
predictions
talk about
time.
that.
I'm just saying.
No, yeah, I mean, you can't ignore it because it did happen, but
Anyway,
It's
so
just bad.
someone feel free to start with predictions.
I already started mine.
What was yours?
Providence sweep.
Yeah, Providence sweep.
oh, good. That's
Cody
easy,
going with it as well? I got 3-2 the first night, and then 3-0 second night.
I got Providence outscoring Maine both nights.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cody. You're real good at that.
I guess I'll.
See, the reason, the reason Maine lost is because Providence scored more goals than them.
Boom! Tough acting to Acton.
Okay, so anyway. I'm starting.
Sorry, I had to throw it out there. You
I had
said
to throw it
Joe.
out there. Okay. All right, here's the thing I've noticed over the last 2 weeks. When this Black Bears team is playing well, it's at their worst they play tough. At their best, they've been playing really well. It was that one period against Northeastern that really just like
It did
you
them.
can't figure out what you're gonna get out of this team. I'm gonna take the split. In all honesty, I think they're gonna play like they did over the weekend against Northeastern on Friday night, beating Providence 4-2, and then Providence figures it back out, wins 5-3.
I'll say Mike.
Yeah, I actually took the same as Adam, although now I'm trying to just think of whether Maine. I want Maine to get the split because part of me knows that they can do it, and then that they would do it for the standings. Do it for the standings. Obviously, they can't control what UNH does, but I'm trying to think.
At the end of the day, they control their own destiny. That's
Exactly.
pretty much the layman's terms of it.
Right, and I'm trying to decide if Maine is going to come out like they did this weekend, where a shaky start and they clean up their act, or if they're going to ride the momentum of this game, and just kind of follow through. I think I'm going to take PC 4-2 night 1, and then 3-1 Maine. Very similar to this weekend. They just kind of figure it out, and then they win night 2. They hold on to 8th place, and they'll host in the first round.
And here's my thing. I mean, Mike, so were you at any of the games last year?
Yes.
Well, when I say any of the games, the Providence games last year.
I was at night 1 of Providence. I had to go
Brandon?
home for night 2.
And Brandon was there for both.
I was there for both,
As
unfortunately.
from talking to players, and this is where I say past games can really, change a team. Think about it this way. Merrimack in our first 2 years, Brandon, 2011 through 2013, they embarrassed us. We could not beat them other than that one series we beat them.
Yep.
What has happened since last year and this year? How many times in a row have we beaten the Merrimack Warriors? 5 times we've beaten them after they embarrass us in our own building.
I was there for that one, too.
As many of those veterans will remember what happens when someone embarrasses you. What you do? You get even.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I feel like Providence isn't Merrimack. That's
Well, I mean-
That's the only.
But you
time.
also said Providence is not the team who everyone thinks they are.
Right, but I didn't say
Exactly.
they're Merrimack quality.
But
I mean, they're still good. I think they're still a team
But
Maine
my
can
point,
beat.
my point being that there are a lot of guys in that roster that remember. They remember, just like myself, where I'll say they're a bit resentful. A lot of them are thinking, we maybe just have to do this or that, and we'll get home ice. We get a week off. Woohoo! Well, evidently the team came up to play in their arena, and they just embarrassed them in front of their home crowd. And not to say made any of us cry, but certainly a little bit heartbroken there to see not only they could not win a game on senior weekend, to then have to go through the series they did to have their season end in Providence. They flat out had Maine's number.
Yep.
And none of those guys that were there last year will make anyone forget what happened last year. I think Maine will do enough to win one game. I don't think they take the whole barn and take this 4 points. That would be I wouldn't say a miracle, but it would be,
It would be pretty darn short of one.
Anything can happen in college hockey. We saw what Maine did 2 weeks ago. Maine has not lost since a road game since Lowell months ago. They are 4-0-1 in their last 5. I think they win Friday night 3-2, and then they're going to lose on senior night 4-1. It'll be 4-1, and the fourth will be an empty netter. I think just Providence will do something to win on senior night.
Kind of like what Maine did this weekend.
I just think the Black Bears will do what they need to do, and then they'll get some outside help, which they've very fortunately always gotten outside help. Which
Christmas came early this year. Christmas came late this year, whatever he said.
Christmas came early, but thankfully, Maine usually gets help, and they have already been given some. The fact that we're in this position because parity ran wild. UNH sweeping Merrimack, or was it UConn?
It doesn't matter.
But either way, UNH getting a pair of points against one of the teams on our tier that we needed to lose, and we're getting that help. I think we get some more. Maine will finish in the 8th spot and host New Hampshire, I think. I think it's going to be Border War Round 3 a week from this weekend.
Well, that would be fun to watch, personally. But
I'm not sick of that.
No, I'm not sick of You don't get sick of a team if you keep beating them. Quote, Red Gender in 2015. So we've gone way over on our hockey talk. We're going to take a very quick break, come back with some quick MLB talk because I know everyone's raring to go on that. And then when we come back after the MLB talk, some NFL offseason stuff going on. Who's going where and who might not be on a team tomorrow for some interesting reasons. We'll be right back. Quick break here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct on WMEB. Back here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Just got done talking some Maine hockey, moving into some baseball as spring is just around the corner.
I like this music, Monsters Inc. like there.
It's Big
It's a Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, right?
Thank you. Someone knows.
I know where you're coming from.
Someone here knows.
He's picking up what you're putting down.
You smell it?
I'm smelling what you're stepping
That's
in.
what
There we go. Stepping what you're smelling in.
twice in a row we're on the same page.
There
All
we
right.
go.
So yeah, baseball talk. Woo. There are things happening. Red Sox are signing people. Everyone's signing people. Everything's going nuts.
Well, I mean, the Red Sox seem to really have this odd interest in the Cubans out of nowhere as they signed Rusney Castillo.
Doesn't every team though?
Well, I mean, not necessarily, but in the end of the day, I mean, the fact that the Red Sox have signed the last 2 or 3 major Cubans to come out here really.
Last 2, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they said.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Rusney, and then I don't even know what this kid's name is. I have not been.
Yohan Moncada.
Yohan Moncada.
All I know is it's still too early for me to start remembering new names at this point in this season.
You don't want to remember his name.
I mean, I will, but I mean, I'm still in the midst of hockey thing right now. I mean, spring training has started. I think yesterday was the first day for players to report.
Yeah, I think Big Papi showed up, and that was kind of the last big story for spring training. He showed up yesterday.
Yep.
I mean, but either way, so obviously, and obviously, I think the way I think we all put it is really just what really this signing means for the Red Sox, if whether or not we will actually see him play, or if this just means that the Red Sox at this point will now get aggressive for some pitching.
Now, my question is, will Moncada kind of replace the Red Sox top prospects before him? Will they keep this guy and then trade away someone else who was at the top of their tier before they signed him to go after a guy like Cole Hamels? And I think that wouldn't be a bad move to make if you're the Red Sox. Even throw in a couple outfielders that you don't need because you don't need 7. You just don't.
Yeah.
And you need arms right now. And so that would be I would think that would be the smart move for the Sox here. You've acquired this guy. Either use him to land a big name or keep him around to use some of your other guys to land a big name or a lesser of a name, but a name nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't think that they just signed him to turn around and deal him for a pitcher. I definitely do agree with that point, though, Mike, and I think that's the biggest impact you'll see from Yohan Moncada this season, actually, is the fact that I think that this will allow the Red Sox to move some of these prospects that were deemed untouchable. You look at a kid like Garrett Cicchini now, who, I mean, it's kind of like one of these names. I don't even know what the kid looks like, but I've heard his name 200 times of how great of a prospect he is. He's a third baseman. So now do you move him since you have, that log jam? You have Bogarts, you got Panda, you got this Yoan Moncada kid who probably looks like more of a major league third baseman than anything else right now. So if you can move him with a couple more pieces, I don't think they're going to get Cole Hamels. It sounds like that's dying down. We were talking about it before the show today. I think the name to pay attention to for the Red Sox is Cliff Lee. Once again, every year, like Alex said, we play this game the past 3 or 4 years. But the fact is, I think that, he's got 2 years left on his contract. I think upwards of $45 million for the 2 years. If you're the Boston Red Sox, I take that gamble for 2 seasons. If he doesn't turn out good this year, you cut him, you release him. You still have to pay him $12 million next year, but still, I think it's a risk worth going with in the fact that baseball, really, there is no salary cap, and the Red Sox have, money coming out of their you-know-whats.
I think the question really comes down to is when are we going to see Yoan Moncada? I mean, we had also been talking about this before the show, and my initial opinion was that I did not like this signing. I thought they already had too much of a logjam as far as offense was concerned. I thought they were just adding to more problems. What I didn't realize, talking about it with a friend of mine on Twitter and he went to my high school, talking about it now, right before the show, I did not realize that the Mike Napoli contract was expiring. And the way I see it, and Cody, I think you make a good point, and shout out to Franklin Pierce's Adam Goss, who's on their baseball team. Both bringing up the point that Moncada would play third, Sandoval moves over to first, either just let Napoli walk or maybe re-sign him to a lower deal next year to have him come off the bench.
I mean, that depends on how well Panda does. I mean, if you want to keep him in the lineup or not.
I think you do keep Panda in the lineup. The fact is you sign him to a 5-year, $100 million contract.
And definitely the other thing with Napoli, and I just remember this, that when he first was here in 2013, I believe he actually missed a period of time in that first year due to, it sounds like he has like a deteriorating issue in his hips right now. So, I mean, essentially, he doesn't sound like, obviously that was why he only signed him for 3 years and the guy's 33 if he has health issues. But, and I would think that expiring contract sounds like maybe, the Red Sox might try to bring him back, but obviously, Napoli might find value somewhere else, so he might sign for more. So, I think it's just, definitely, they're covering their butts in case Napoli decides to bowl, and all of a sudden they just need someone there. Granted, $30 million for a guy who's 19 is a bit questionable. That's the one part.
Well, no, it's $63 million.
Well, it's 2 years, $63 million, so he's being paid $30 million a year roughly. So essentially, that's what. I get their commitment.
It's more than 2 years.
No, I thought it was only a 2-year deal.
They have him locked up for like 7 years, 6 or 7 years.
I thought that was just Castillo.
No, it's the same with Moncada because they have him on. They signed him to a long-term deal. They have the fact is they have this kid locked up for a while.
Oh, okay. My apologies. I thought it was a bit different.
$31.5 million is going straight to the player, but then since the Red Sox are over their international salary cap that the MLB put in place to prevent this from happening, the fact is the Red Sox have to spend, it's 100% tax for every international player they sign now because of the fact they spent so much on Rusney and I think a couple other international names I can't remember off the top of my head, but so now they paid, they reached an agreement with Yoan and then pretty much had to turn around and pay the MLB the same price they're going to pay him.
All right.
So I mean, it's bringing up shades of Daisuke Matsuzaka once again, which
things are
everybody goes and everybody does that. What happened the year after you brought Daisuke in?
It went downhill after the first year.
What happened the year you brought him in?
They won.
They won a World Series.
I still think
same thing with Beckett. As much of a pain he was, I would never go back and not make that deal.
No, Beckett was a heck of a pitcher.
Oddly enough,
Beckett was a great pitcher.
Well, see, that's the funny thing.
Daisuke was great that year.
Except for a fourth inning.
Here's the funny thing about the Beckett deal. The piece that we sent is now back with the Red Sox. Hanley Ramirez, who was pretty much the bargaining chip to the Marlins, is now back here 9 years later, whatever. Because I remember Beckett was like, I believe winter of 2005 when they acquired. I know Beckett's first year here was not 2007. He had another year. But just, that's kind of funny how now the Red Sox get Hanley Ramirez, and it was almost 9 years to the day he got traded was when the Red Sox acquired him, too. That's the funny thing about all of this.
I'm sorry. Daisuke didn't pitch as well as I thought he did his first year. 15-12, 4.40 ERA. Do you want to know what his second year was in Boston?
What?
18-3, 2.90 ERA.
All right.
So
And
you
then-
got 2 pretty good years.
And then the
out of
World
it.
Baseball Classic happened, and things just sort of went downhill from there.
Right.
No,
and
it was
I
the World Baseball Classic was before that, because I remember that's what made it famous. And
Right.
that's why we
Well,
wanted
no.
it.
No, what I mean is, then when the problems in Boston occurred, so you say the 2 first years, which is 07 and 08.
Right.
Then the spring of 09, which was the World Baseball
I
Classic.
thought it was 06.
No, well, yeah, that's when he became famous. I'm not disputing.
Oh, you're saying he
what
pitched in another
as
one
in
and then
my
got messed
my
up.
point being was he pitched in the 2009 World Baseball Classic. Then the issues with the Red Sox management and his deteriorating health started to happen after that World Baseball
It's
Classic.
almost like if you can throw 12 different pitches, it's not good for your arm, huh?
Yeah, I still think Okajima is
gyro
the better
ball.
end of
Sorry,
that deal.
I just felt like
I don't know. I
felt
feel the Red Sox got more mileage out of him than they did out of Daisuke. Either way, that's not a point. One point I did want to bring up versus the Mike Napoli versus Sandoval kind of deals. I think if that's what the Red Sox would want to do, I'd be all for it in terms of offense. If you just look at Napoli strikes out so much. I think in the last 2 years, in 2013-14, 187 strikeouts in 2013, the highest in his career, and then 133 in 14, which is the 3rd highest, compared to Sandoval in the last 2 years with 79 and 85 strikeouts apiece. I mean, just from that alone, I mean, just putting the ball in play in baseball is half the battle, and that's going to be productive whether you have guys on base, you can advance runners and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Sandoval has a decent season and Napoli has kind of another so-so season at the plate, I wouldn't be surprised to see him.
No, I'll
kind of
agree
just
with you.
get
And I
a
mean, I know it's
raw
kind
deal.
of like apples and oranges here, but if you're going to look at it like that, I mean, would I rather have Mike Napoli at say $8 or $9 million a year, or would I rather have Panda at 20? I think I would take Mike Napoli any day of the week over that, because the fact is, home runs, RBIs, average you take a dip going from staying with Napoli, but I think power-wise, Napoli's a much better power hitter, and I think he fits Fenway Park. Granted, too, we're all saying this right now.
Before we've even seen
Exactly,
Pablo in a game
Panda
at
hasn't
Fenway.
even played a game in Fenway Park.
let alone
so,
Jet Blue.
So, yeah, I want to kind of hold off on the Panda talk. You know, he came into camp looking like we thought he would.
Panda watch.
He's tubby. He's a big boy. You know, I think that the fact that he's in a lineup now that protects him a little bit more should deem well. You know, the fact is I still think that the list of priorities goes Ortiz, Hanley, and then probably Panda, maybe even Napoli ahead of Panda just by, like I said, pure power. So I think this lineup, does look pretty deadly, though. I think an issue that could happen if you want a quick outlook of the season, my prediction is if it starts to get bad early, I think the trio of Sandoval, Hanley, and David Ortiz will sink the ship. I think that they are like the Mean Girls clique now. They are taking selfies together. They all have the same haircut.
On
They
Wednesdays,
are-
they wear pink.
No. Write this down. I'm telling you. They are going to be this little group, and other guys in the locker room aren't going to like it. When John Farrell comes out with his book, the 2014, there will be parts in that chapter about how this clique made people mad in the locker room. I'm telling you.
See,
Hot takes 2015.
what's interesting is just kind of thinking about how long
2015 's
David Ortiz is going to be around. Obviously, he says when he came to training, he's ready for another year, maybe
looks like
more.
it.
But the thing is, if he kind of decides to step back and Pablo Sandoval does okay at Boston, you could possibly think about moving Napoli to the DH slot or the other way around. I mean, the Red Sox do have a lot of options when it comes to offense, which I guess is not a bad problem to have. But, yeah, I guess, Cody, you're right. Like you said, we haven't seen Panda yet, so all of this is going to have to wait until the season actually begins, and we'll be maybe talking about this in a few weeks towards the end of the school year, just about, how things are going to shape up for the rest of the season. But definitely something to watch.
I mean, yeah, it's certainly at the end of the day, it's wait and see. We'll see what happens. It's the early days of the baseball season era. I mean,
It's not even March yet. We have no idea what's going to
I was
happen.
gonna say, what is it? Boston's not even played their scheduled games against BC and Northeastern yet.
Yeah, I think that's next week. But I really do. I think I was pretty down on them earlier on a couple shows before this, saying that they're not going to be good. They're not going to be good. I think that the fact that they're playing such a weak division this year. I think the Orioles will still be a pretty solid team, but I think the Blue Jays and the Yankees will have down years again. I think the Rays will be in their own category of horrible without Joe Madden there. So I think the fact is, if they can get pitchers to, keep them in games, by no means are any of those pitchers going to win you games consistently. They just have to keep you in the game, where you hope that, this lineup of, you go down the list 1 through 7, they are loaded if everyone is healthy. I mean, you go, Rusney Castillo, Pedroia, Ortiz, Ramirez, Sandoval, Napoli, Bogarts. And then even if, a kid like Blake Swihart can come up, a guy who, is hailed as one of the best offensive catchers in the minor leagues, this team's going to put up a lot of runs.
I think the big thing is going to be, and I don't even, because of the fact that, the Pablo Kung Fu Panda and Hanley Ramirez sort of dominate all the talk, what has the Sox done on their bullpen? I mean, I guess I'll more that as a real question. I just don't know what they did. What did they do?
When does anybody really do anything for the bullpen in the offseason that turns out to work well?
The Red Sox did it, I think at least one of their times. I know
in 2004 when they got Keith Folk. I'll give you that one.
2013 was...
What did they do? They signed Hideki Okajima for pennies. They didn't expect him to give them anything. He was the third closer that year.
Well, I would say he was more the setup man than anything else. But what I mean is, in 2013 and other years, the Red Sox just, I remember they signed Hanrahan, which turned out to be nothing. Then all of a sudden... I don't even remember who our closer was at that point.
Bailey. No, they traded for Hanrahan, signed Bailey. They traded for Hanrahan and Bailey.
And then Hanrahan got hurt, which I remember.
But that's what I mean. I think that bullpen guys, they kind of make themselves. You don't have to go out and get a bullpen arm. I feel like, whether it's guys in the minors or you sign guys off, free agency, you don't hear about it, but then it's like when they're pitching in October, they say, oh, wow, how smart Ben Cherington was for signing this left-handed reliever for $2 million a year. Like, well, no, that's chump change in MLB. He was doing that to fill the roster, and it worked out.
At this point, I mean, just the only thing I say the Red Sox would need otherwise, and I'm not going to try to build up my hype here, because if I do, I'm going to be vastly disappointed. They got they traded out De La Rosa and Webster for Wade Miley. Someone else will be seeing in the bullpen there, or we'll be seeing on the starting rotation, I should say. So there's a couple of their guys they traded. So, I mean, it's interesting to see, 'cause especially they also got rid of Renato from a left-handed pitcher. So
yeah, Robbie Ross from Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I think
that's correct.
Yeah,
so essentially, just the one thing I think the Red Sox will need to do, and maybe this will be something we won't even think about till July when the trade deadline comes up. They need one more arm. I think that's what's going to happen. That's what you've been saying, Cody, Cliff Lee, or whatnot. It's just they need that one more arm, because no offense, Clay Buchholz says your ace does not exactly sound as good as it maybe did a few years ago.
Well, if he can stay healthy, I think that's the biggest thing. And they don't really have the artillery or even, the luxury of maybe pitching Buchholz, once every 6 or 7 days. The fact is he needs to go once every 5 days with how the pitching rotation is constituted as of now. So that kind of hurts them. But I still, Clay Buchholz is a very good pitcher. When he is healthy, he is a top 15 pitcher in Major League Baseball. I will say that with confidence.
Agreed.
The fact is he can't stay healthy. Just like, the conversation we had with, Gronk in football. It's like, oh, well, when he plays, he's one of the best players in the league, but he gets hurt. So maybe Buchholz finally does have that year where he can stay healthy, but like I've said here before, I think he's too small. He's just he looks frail. He looks like, a cokehead, honestly. Sorry, no offense to him, but he does. He does. So I think if, maybe he can get some of that training that Yohan Moncada's on, and I think that he'll be able to pitch a full year.
Well, and this is the weird thing about when you look at Clay Buchholz's number. It seems like 2010, which was like his first big year, like he had been, sort of a back-end guy, and then all of a sudden, 2010, he's like one of the only All-Stars in the forgettable year that was, the bridge years. I famously remember the 2010 season being dawned, and then he gets like some injury. I think it was like something in his esophagus or something internal, and that it's sort of gone up and down from there. So it's interesting to see if he can finally have a bounce-back year. Now that essentially he is, as of right now, their number one. I mean, I don't like the sound of it, but at the end of the day, I'm just that's kind of how it is. He's just the first guy out there, and
yeah, I mean, he's kind of the ace by default. I mean, he's been there the longest. I think he said they moved him into the ace locker in the clubhouse at JetBlue. I don't really know what that means. There's a locker dedicated. I don't know why he doesn't keep the same locker.
I guess it's sort of like hockey, where they give the goalies the corner of the locker rooms.
But I guess I don't know. I just we'll see. It's early, like we said. It's fun to talk about. It is nice to see all these vines going up on Twitter of Poppy and Hanley and the batting cage, hearing the crack of the bat. It's good to get us through these dreary days of winter as we've been getting more and more snow by the day.
February grossness.
Yeah, but I mean, don't get me wrong. It'll be a fun summer, I think. My biggest hope is that they're competitive. I don't want a year where they're irrelevant again. I want them.
Like, yeah,
even if they miss the playoffs in the end, so be it. But
As long
Be
as
in the hunt.
as long as they're there in like the middle of September.
There you go. That's all I want.
I agree with you.
I guess it's a good wrap up as it's the top of the hour.
Absolutely, is some good off-season talk for baseball, which is just about to get started, and we'll take a quick break here at the top of the hour. When we come back, though, it's going to be a little bit of a more depressing off-season talk, as it's a sport that just ended. We'll be getting some NFL off-season talk right after this short break. You're listening to Unsportsmanlike Conduct on WMEB. Back here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct, 403. Got talking about some UMaine hockey and some baseball offseason. Now we get to more offseason talk. Cody LaChance once again joining us for another week where there's NFL talk. And
I know it's like the season never ends.
It
Never does end.
For a true NFL fan, the season never ends. And
Well, obviously it's not as fun as the regular season for me. But
Oh,
this is-
absolutely.
I love team building and the draft and all that. I think it's so interesting. You learn
absolutely,
more
I
about
love
it.
some of my favorite things in sports are trade deadlines and draft times. I mean, you look at the NBA trade deadline right now. Kevin Garnett back, with the Timberwolves. That's awesome to see.
mean-
Stuff like that just gets me so happy and so amped.
And Cody the other Cody, our former sports director Cody Beckett, jumping officially the Philadelphia bandwagon for wherever Michael Carter Williams ended up. I don't know where he went.
I can't remember where he went, but
I'll find it up in 2 seconds.
you're allowed. I'm pretty sure you're allowed to do that when you went to high school with a kid. So
I was to say, just like I'll have that small bit of me that'll always be cheering for wherever Rudd is.
oh, that's true too. Well,
You got to stick together for your hometown boys.
there you go. But so yeah, and a
Bucks.
lot of free agency stuff going on as franchise players have already been announced. Yeah, they've already been starting to get tagged. The franchise tags.
No, I don't think anyone's been officially tagged yet.
I mean, I think they've just sort
A
of
lot of
been out there.
rumors.
Well, I mean, I think maybe players can announce who they're going to. It's just one of those they verbally can say it. They just can't officially, do it. I don't know what the official date is for when you can.
Monday is March 2nd. Yeah, Monday is the first day that players can actually be franchised, and then I believe it's the 10th is the first day of the new league year, and when free agency doomsday begins.
You have a whole little thing going
Could you
on
not
here,
draw
Brendan.
attention to everything that doesn't have to do with the show, Alex? Thank you.
It's very entertaining to watch. But yeah, I mean, obviously, as every team getting ready for the new league year and find out, hey, who at least in the short term do I want to try to get a long-term deal with and don't want them to go to free agency? Obviously, I mean, really, I'd almost say, Cody, I'm not sure how you had this started, but really for the Patriots, who do you think they should use it on? Because I just sort of Googled franchise tag, and I already see one name for the Patriots being thrown out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only candidate that is really, it could potentially be put on is Devin McCourty, the free safety, who wasn't a Pro Bowl snub this year, but the fact is he played like a Pro Bowler. But then again, when Darrelle Revis is on your team, it's, he just makes it look so much easier for everyone else, which he does. But the fact remains, I think that his number for the franchise would be somewhere like $9.5 million, which does seem a little high to me for a guy like McCourty. But at the end of the day, I think that it is doable for the Patriots. The fact is, I think the salary cap is going up by another $10 million this year, so it's going to go up from $133 to $143 million per year. And there's also it just came out that teams need to spend so much money in like these weird blocks of years, and the fact is the Patriots haven't spent enough money, and now it's coming to the end of one of these like blocks. So the Patriots actually need to spend a lot of money this offseason, not so much for the cap, but actually like hard cash. So that can be done in signing bonuses and things like that. So I really do think that this offseason, I think Devin McCourty and Darrelle Revis both will get locked up long term, and I think that you'll see 32 and 24 in this Patriots secondary for the next 3 to 4 years together playing at an elite level.
I mean, I was almost more going to say, I don't know what else to say, but yeah, I mean, that's the name I was going to say. I saw it there. I was almost going to say, as obviously myself as a Giants fan, I mean, I would expect the Giants, they will probably only use the tag on one player, and that's granted as it was sort of referred to in an article as a last resort in for one JPP. The Giants need to resign him. They need that pass rush. Otherwise, I mean, just the way I've seen how the Giants work, they need that deadly pass rush. Obviously, they can't just have one guy. They need to get some others, but that'll come in due time. But for now,
But you also
they need to lock up that little franchise, the cornerstone of the pass rush, which is currently Pierre-Paul, because they've let everyone else go.
The tag isn't necessarily a dooming we only have them for 1 year. You have until mid-July to sign them to a long-term deal.
But pretty much the point being to throw the tag on them. And that's what the point is.
So
As
you
in
protect
essentially you keep them out of the you keep them out there.
Keep them out from an unrestricted free
Because obviously JPP will make some money. Just I'd like to think that the Giants at the end of the day, it's just all about getting that final number. And I think extra time, maybe after the market for whoever's actually out there will settle. They'll find a number for him, but just at the end of the day, I think just Pierre-Paul is who the Giants will use. And I think that's pretty much what Coughlin said they will use, is that if they can't get a long-term deal before, I believe March 2nd or whatever it was, that they will use the tag on him.
Yeah, and going around the league, you look at some other players that, could potentially get the franchise tag. I think, the big glaring one right now, a lot of the news coming out today is Des Bryant in Dallas. It came out earlier this week that Dallas was expected to use the franchise tag on him and just play it out. But now there's this news circling about a tape that is Ray Rice-esque, which involves
Domestic
Des
violence.
Bryant, potentially taking part in domestic violence. Again, there's been I'm on Twitter right now. There's no real rumors. It's just said it's rumored as bad.
It's
very
rumored
bad.
as bad, and it's rumored that TMZ is currently bidding for it.
So it sounds like, and there is rumors that it will be out tomorrow. I don't really want to spend a lot of time on it because, again, we don't know what it is. Who knows? But the fact is it doesn't look good. The fact still remains, though, is that Des Bryant will most likely be playing in the NFL next year. If guys like Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, Greg Hardy are still around, Des Bryant's someone will give him money.
And I'm not denying that, but here's the big thing, and actually this is the article where I'm not saying people will probably commit the money, but whether or not, how long he sees, because apparently from reading an article here in Deadspin that this is something that's supposedly being known for months now. So essentially, not to be very hilarious, this almost might become the next Ray Rice circumstance, as in the NFL knew for months and didn't do anything about this, kind of thing. We're starting to see that circumstance begin to happen here again, if this is all true, by the way. There's no official evidence as of right now. I don't know if the next hour we'll find something, and this is a moot point I just said, but obviously this could be a very damning thing. Obviously, Des Bryant, already not the most likable character on the planet. I'm not saying, guys like Ray Rice or even Adrian Peterson were, but Des Bryant's sort of, he's built that kind of character that,
Yeah, but, I mean, the character, too, he's had some off-field issues, but he's been pretty decent in the NFL up until now. Again, we don't know what this tape is. It sounds like he was already in the NFL when this came out. We'll see what happens. The fact is, it's got to come out for me to really get into it on this subject. I kind of... I think that Dez will be back in Dallas regardless of this tape because it sounds like Jerry Jones has known about it, and if anything, the fact that it's coming out now kind of sounds like a leverage tool more than anything. The fact that we got this tape, so now you got to sign less.
Apparently, Schefter has been quote working on this since September.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I have no idea what to expect. The NFL, has taken multiple hits. It's not going to hurt their brand any. Believe me, they still make $1 billion a year, but. Anyways, I think, if you're looking around the league a little bit more, you look at a guy, if you go to Denver even, two of the passing weapons that Peyton Manning has been graced to throw to the past 2 seasons, you have the Thomas brothers. They're not really brothers, but Demarius and Julius, one being a all-pro wide receiver, the other being a tight end who looks like has worked more because of Peyton versus his actual skill set. And I think that, you look at a guy like Demarius Thomas, he could get tagged. I don't think Julius Thomas will get tagged. It looks like Denver is actually ready to let him go. And then another big name, you have Ndamukong Suh in Detroit, who I think he will stay in Detroit the longer this goes on. I think that they will franchise him if they need to and try to work out that long-term deal. Sounds like he wants to stay there, which is surprising because earlier this season it looked like he was ready to get out of there. In fact, I thought he might be traded at the trade deadline. But I don't know. NFL offseason, I like it. It's nice because MLB offseason, as we saw this year. I know Adam probably got frustrated with it at times, the fact that it takes so long for some of these deals to come out. The fact is, most NFL officials and GMs will know who's going where by by March 10th, and then
pretty
it's
much
all
formalities. Pretty much by the time we have their next Unsportsmanlike Conduct, which
Everything
will
will
be after
be
break.
But some quick, interesting names that I think are going to hit the market, and for a more New England standpoint, who I think the Patriots will kick the tires on, and ultimately might sign a few. The fact is, I think that the main goal, like I've said, of this offseason for the Patriots is to retain Darrelle Revis and Devin McCourty. After that, what you get is what you get. I think Shane Vereen, the third down, pass-catching running back, I think he'll leave for bigger money. I think Steven Gostowski, the kicker, who's also a free agent, will come back. But now there's rumors that one Percy Harvin will not take a pay cut in New York and will hit the open market. The same Percy Harvin that the Patriots were ready to draft in 2009, to which Minnesota took him one pick before them. And then once again, when Minnesota was trading him, I believe New England was one of the first teams to call Minnesota. So we'll see what happens there. A lot of people instantly don't want him. He's a locker room, for better word, cancer, I guess.
I mean, but I guess almost I'd say the testament. In some cases, we've seen it work, but at the same time, we haven't seen it work in some cases. But overall, it seems that Belichick's had a relative good track record with even, at times, guys who have questionable characters.
Guys who are like the problem children, they're Bill's specialty.
Well, that's the thing. And, the thing that I look at more than anything is the fact that this is a player that Bill has always had a lot of respect for and always kind of
Florida
wanted.
guy, right?
Yeah, he's an Urban Meyer guy. Yeah,
there you go. He's an Urban Meyer guy who's from those Florida Gator teams where Bill took for better or for worse, took those guys, Tebow, Hernandez, just to name a couple. Those, that kind of core from those years, and Harvin was right there too. So I really do think if he hits the open market, a lot of people are instantly saying no. If you can get him for close to the league minimum, just for his kick returning abilities, I think it's worth it. And you don't even have to give up Danny Amendola if you get this guy for the league minimum, because everybody's saying, well, what do you do with Amendola? We'll see. The kid is explosive. Would he come in here and catch 100 passes? No, I don't want him to. I want him on a couple, trick plays type things, returning kickoffs, that type of thing. Another name that Michael Crabtree, the wide receiver out in San Francisco, I think he'll be a free agent. I think that he's an interesting name for the Patriots. If they do feel that Aaron Dobson or Brian Timms can't take the next step as their third or fourth wide receiver, I should say, look at a guy like that. And a guy who I really wanted, but it looks like he's going to stay in Miami, Adam, I think Charles Clay. I think you guys, or your team is said to, they're going to be giving him like $6 million a year, which I think is a little bit too much.
Yeah, I have not been trying to follow the NFL offseason, mostly because it's getting close to baseball season.
Well, yeah.
I just want it to be baseball season already. I don't really have that much stock in the NFL right now.
Well, anyways,
probably track the draft a little bit, see if the Dolphins can get what they need to get to.
Well, it could be worse. It could be the Cleveland Browns,
Yeah, well, I guess what
Great
I'm saying.
logo change,
Oh, yeah,
Very
absolutely.
inventive.
A great logo change.
All I'm saying is, I think the Miami Dolphins are going to retain one of their, one of the most underrated offensive weapons in the NFL, I think, in Charles Clay, a guy who can pretty much do it all, line up any spot on the field.
Oh, I love Charles Clay. I mean, just the dynamic he brings into that passing game. Give Tannehill that short option so that he doesn't always have to try to air it out from Mike Wallace, who I'm looking at strong candidates for release.
Yeah,
and he's on the list at number 3 with Brian Hartline and Brandon Gibson all getting cut, possibly getting cut.
I mean, I don't think the Dolphins are going to do a total rehaul of their wide receiver core. I think that Mike Wallace will be cut because I think his cap number's so high.
His cap number's too high, and in all honesty, I think he's a cancer in that locker room. And I don't think what Percy Harvin is.
For lack of a better term.
Right, and I think...
for lack of a better term.
And I think, too, something to keep in mind is that as, the draft kind of comes around, too, everybody wants to do mock drafts and stuff. Just remember that free agency is really how teams try to improve. The teams that can supplement through the draft are the ones that normally are successful. If you need to go into the draft to, get starters, that's never really a good thing for your team. So I think... you really can't get a good feel on a mock draft or what teams are going to do where until free agency is over.
I mean, I would say just from how I've seen in some obviously the big part of the draft, like every draft, it's all about building your future. You're not, but I think maybe in some cases, maybe there's just you're trying to get that one final piece you need to make yourself a contender. But yeah, it's pretty much for the most part, you're just there to supplement the future. You hope it works out. If not, we only paid him, a couple $1 million. Other than, the first-round guys, which are usually, it depends on where they go.
I really think one of my teams to look out for this offseason, though, are the Oakland Raiders.
They
have
a
a lot of money. They have a young quarterback who showed that he does have some skill.
He has potential.
I really do think that they will bring in either Randall Cobb or Julius Thomas. I think they will sign one of those, if not both. I think they have enough money. The fact that they want to surround Derek Carr with weapons, hashtag weapons, laugh at it what you will. But I think that if you can supplement a young quarterback with other younger players, but a guy like Randall Cobb who's played in an offense with an elite quarterback, same with Julius Thomas who, can kind of show Carr what it takes to win at this level. You throw in the fact that they just drafted last year a phenom linebacker in Khalil Mack and that they have another high draft pick this year. I really do think the Oakland Raiders are going to start turning it around in an AFC West that, you do have the Broncos, but they're definitely on the downslide. And then you got teams like the Chargers and the Chiefs, which every year you don't really know what you're going to get from them. So I'm telling you, if the Raiders can have a good offseason, I think it'll be very interesting come this fall how their team looks. And really, that could be a borderline playoff team, as funny as it sounds to us, who really haven't seen the Raiders in the playoffs since the Tuck rule.
You look at it, the Broncos...
Well, didn't they make the Super Bowl the year after that, too?
Yeah, they made it in 37.
That's right. You're right.
But
the way they lost the Bucs.
when you look at that division, the Broncos are on the verge of a downslide. They're not fully there yet, but I think definitely with Peyton Manning, it's not getting any easier for them. The Chiefs will make it interesting. I think the Chiefs will be, sort of maybe middle of the pack. And I don't even know what to think of the Chargers because, they always seem like they're that consistent regular season team, and they've just sort of dropped recently. So I don't know. It definitely seems like they're in the right division, other than maybe the NFC South, if you're the Oakland Raiders, to really make a chance at anything.
Yeah, and I think that, you brought up a good point in Peyton Manning and talking about him. He actually has, there's multiple decisions facing Peyton Manning this offseason. The fact that if he does want to take a pay cut to stay in Denver, pretty much they got rid of, his buddy in Adam Gase, which ran, the Peyton Manning style offense exactly how he wanted. I don't know if Gary Kubiak, their new head coach hire, will be as willing to run a Peyton Manning style offense when he's used to doing, a lot of bootleg passing and, a quarterback who can throw the ball downfield, which is why Joe Flacco had, a pretty solid year last year having Kubiak as his offensive coordinator. So I really think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. I think the Denver Broncos are in a tough situation as to, they really don't have a backup. I don't think Brock Osweiler, they have been grooming him the way they should have been. So I think that, it's in their best interest to get him back really at whatever number. Try to go another year or two with him. I think they know deep down that they won't win a Super Bowl, but the fact is you've put all this money and effort into this player, so you might as well ride it out. And then if they do want him to take a pay cut, if I'm Peyton Manning, I say no thank you, and I go play in Tennessee where I played college, and they'll pay him $15, $16, $17 million a year, and he'll go be a hero down there on a 4-win team because I think that's the type of player Peyton Manning is. He doesn't care.
Something I wanted to bring up that was standing out to me in the running back situation, talking about offense. Two Patriots running backs, one of which doesn't really matter considering he was injured, but one who had a huge playoff impact. Shane Vereen and Stephen Ridley, both on the free agent list this year. I wanted your thoughts on that, Cody, because I know you have quite the running back opinion for the Patriots. So I've heard you not favor Vereen. I've heard you not favor Ridley. More so Ridley than Vereen. But.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It is really tough because Stephen Ridley is by far the most talented runner the Patriots have had since Corey Dillon.
I was just about to say Corey Dillon.
Even Lawrence Maroney. Look at him, a ex-first rounder that they took. But still, I think Stephen Ridley has done a pretty solid job when he's held onto the ball. And it is a shame this year he didn't stay healthy because the fact is he was having a great year. He didn't had no fumbles when he got hurt. I think he was having a really good year. So I look at a guy like Stephen Ridley and say, I think he's gonna be back. I really do. I think that if he says, well, I just want one more year to prove it, and he sees maybe playing in an offense with Tom Brady, with Rob Gronkowski, with Julian Edelman, the fact that he can put up a decent, maybe he can put another 1,000-yard season up, hit the free agent market like that, and then make a decent payday. If he wants to do that, he'll be back here. There is 0% chance Shane Vereen is back, I think. because I think that Shane Vereen, I think it's already rumored that he wants $5 million a year, which is craziness in the modern NFL to pay a running back who isn't, in that category of Jamal Charles, LaShawn McCoy, Marshawn Lynch. I think there's only like 6 or 7 running backs in today's NFL that make over 6 or 7 million, and it's those type of guys. And Shane Vereen, no offense to him, great player, seems like a great locker room guy. He is nowhere near that. So to answer your question, I think if one is going to be back, Ridley, but would I be surprised if neither are back? Absolutely not.
That's kind of what I figured you were going to say.
And a name I will tell you to watch out for is Tyler Gaffney. I'm pretty sure most Patriots fans, it kind of went under the radar when they signed him or when they got him during training camp this past year. But he was actually, I think, a third-round pick by the Panthers in last year's draft. Got injured, and the Panthers were trying to slide him through to the IR. And Bill did one of his things where he just plucked him off the waiver wire or whatever it is and kind of stashed him away. Knew that last year was a lost season, but he is back up and running and ready to go. He was actually highly regarded coming out of last year's draft class. So, he might be a guy that Bill's saying, well, we'll roll with him and see how it works. You got LeGarrette Blount for the league minimum next year. You got the Gaffney kid. You got James White. Brandon Bolden, a guy who I claim should have been cut. I'm glad they didn't. He was a great special teamer. He's still a running back by trade, so he can come in there and take some carries. I think that running back is a position they'll address in the draft at some point. I can't see them signing a running back.
Did they already do away with Jonas Gray?
No, he's still on the roster, and there you go. There's another name that I didn't even bring up. I think Jonas Gray is gone, though. I can't see him back.
He did his one game.
Exactly. He had his one game, and now I think he'll be gone. But the thing that Patriots fans need to take going into this coming year, whether it's there shouldn't. If the Patriots do everything right, there won't be a big name coming in on free agency. You need to retain your guys. And, quickly on just like minorly on, the Patriots draft, what they should do there. Like I said, it all depends on free agency, but you also, too, have to remember that you're pretty much getting a first-round pick added to this year's draft because Dominic Easley really only played 3 or 4 games last year before they had to shut him down for the rest of the year. So I think that him coming back healthy is just as good as a top 10 pick in the draft. I think that highly of him. I think they got him as low as they did because of the injury history. Obviously it played out in his rookie season, but if he can come back healthy and ready to go, I think Dominic Easley is truly a difference maker on this defense and will make Patriots fans, think that was a steal at the end of the first round.
And speaking of defense, I'm not sure if you've already mentioned McCourty, but I'm not sure if you mentioned Revis yet. That's been another. Pretty sure that's been another murmur around Patriots camps about whether or not he's coming back, or whereas your argument is, money can't buy how he felt holding that first trophy.
That's what I said right after.
Yeah,
and then I'm getting less confident as every day goes by. Not to say that I thought that it would happen, that they would have re-upped him by now, but the fact remains he is under contract for the 2015 season. So there is incentive to get a new deal done because of the cap numbers so high, and it sounds like the Revis camp has said that was just a placeholder year, so they're expecting a new long-term deal, and if not, that they should be able to hit the open market. But part of me says that him winning that trophy, like I said, money can't buy that happiness. Well, he's already had that happiness now. So maybe does he say, well, I got the ring.
Well, it depends on how addicted to glory he is,
and there you go. So now it's like, I got the ring now. I fill out my Canton resume. The fact that, I do have a Super Bowl ring. I've been on a championship team. Now do I just go cash out and go play for my buddy Rex Ryan? Do I go back home to New York where I was a hero? Or anything like that. You look at a team like the Atlanta Falcons who are so bad on defense. Maybe he says, I want to go live in the warm weather and I want to go cash out, and, Atlanta's a good city. I don't really know. I think that at the end of the day, I'm still more confident than not that they will reach a term with him. I think that he will be the highest paid corner in football. I think that they will make him that. With everything, they need to spend the money. The cap's going up. Brady's cap number is going down this year. It just all is adding up to the fact that, you need that guy. You saw what happened when you brought him in. That defense did elevate to a championship level. So I think he'll be back. I'm not as confident as I was right after the Super Bowl, but then again, I was on cloud 9 after the
Well,
Super
I mean,
Bowl. So, you know,
most Patriots fans were.
but now that we're turning the pages to 2015, now, you know, we're already looking ahead, and, you know, I'm trying to think more level-headedly. So now I do think that he'll be back, you know.
But
Will it get ugly? It might get a
You're
little ugly.
less confident than you were.
Less confident. Put it this way. The Patriots put a new protocol that if you buy a jersey from their pro shop and the player isn't on the team within a year of you buying it, they will give you a percentage off your next jersey. I went back and found my receipt for my Darrelle Revis jersey. Put it that way.
Okay.
So I am prepared.
Okay. Wrapping up the segment because I want to be able to get enough into women's basketball and also into the weekly Sports Nation polls because I think those spur some great debates. One person I want to say at the top of one of these lists I'm reading for free agents has caught my eye, and I just want a very quick opinion. Anyone can really chime in. Quarterbacks. The number one free agent on this list,
Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez. Where do you think he goes? Do you think he's going
New
anywhere?
England. I think he's going to New England. He is the future.
I had actually been.
We already have the GOAT Garoppolo. We're all set with him.
Sure.
All set with backup.
Sure.
I was actually reading something on NFL.com about 6 free agents that could fit with the new teams. They talked about Mark Sanchez going and joining Rex Ryan in Buffalo.
That's no. See that Adam.
I'm not sure if that
sounds.
works.
It
I'm
sounds
not sure if
good.
that's gonna work, but
No, but
it would
why?
be interesting to see that work.
Why go back to Rex when he's such a horrible offensive coach and pretty much ruined the value you had? I mean, people forget he was like a top 10 pick. The Jets traded
was like
up
the
for him.
5th, I think.
Yeah, the Jets traded up for him. So, and the fact is he never improved once he came to the NFL. He got worse, mainly in part due to Rex Ryan's offense. A team that I look at as a potential dark horse candidate, I look at a team like St. Louis, who kind of says, you know, we could use just a game manager who can stay healthy and be all right. You know, Sam Bradford, it looks like, you know, they might even deal him. So watch out for St. Louis. You know, obviously, you know, Buffalo is going to get thrown in there as well. But, you know, pretty much any QB-needy team, maybe even a team like Chicago. I don't really know. The fact is, if your team is looking at Mark Sanchez as a viable option at starting quarterback, then God bless your soul.
And with
They're
that,
in for a rough season.
And with
if
that,
you're
we
looking for Mark Sanchez to be your starting quarterback.
we conclude our NFL segment. It was a lot of wheeling and dealing. We'll see what happens. Probably have some new news by the next show, considering it'll be 3 weeks away. Spring break looming upon us. When we come back after this very, very short break, we will be talking some preview of some America East action. Tomorrow night, the women's team takes on, I believe, Binghamton, is it? Or is it UMBC? UMBC tomorrow night. Currently 13-1 in the conference. Number one overall in the conference is Albany has dropped to second place and projected at a 14 seed in the national tournament. So we'll get on that. And also some Sports Nation polls after this quick break. You're listening to Unsportsmanlike Conduct on WMEB. Back here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct, 4:32, last half hour of the show. Going to be talking some more UMaine athletics after taking a break for Pro Talk.
Oh, so I loved your comment to the Jack Eichel drinking the Northeastern's tears.
Yeah, no,
I
he's-
just caught it.
No, I wasn't referring to the video, and I think that's what Cody was a little bit confused about. I wasn't hating on the video. I was from the
You're
article.
just hating on Eichel?
Well, from the article that was written, it sounded like he was not the nicest kind of guy.
Well, I mean,
I mean that's probably a given.
he is playing at BU, so I mean that wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, BU has had their history of some less than savory players.
Sorry, super quick here. Kind of breaking news, but not really.
Go ahead.
Jason LaConfora is suspecting that barring some significant progress, Baltimore Ravens nose tackle Haloti Ngata has played his last game with the Ravens.
Wow,
Which is huge.
that's
Sorry.
pretty huge.
Jerry Reese, get on the phone.
Considering that Baltimore, I think, is the only real threat in the AFC for a Patriot return to the Super Bowl, and if they lose a guy like that, I like their chances even more.
Well, there you go.
Sorry, let's
No,
get
no.
the hype train going.
I agree with
the well-deserved hype train. I'm not being sarcastic.
Oh, I know
This
you're
is
not.
serious.
Oh.
This is serious hype train.
and I appreciate the somewhat breaking news, even though it's It's kind of breaking. Didn't warrant the music, but it's
There you go.
still a nice pick-me-up.
Breaking news?
Breaking news, question mark?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
All right, 13 wins in a row for the women's basketball team. Most recently beating Binghamton 70-56. Once again, allowing over 50 points for the first time, but making up for it by scoring 70.
I mean, at this point, I can't be giving up 50 points for the first time if it's happened like 2 or 3 times now.
It's happened too.
Well, you get my point that you're saying for the first time, but yet they've given up now in consecutive games.
I didn't mean to say the first time. I meant for a very rare occasion letting up over 50 points when they average.
Gotcha.
Pretty sure they averaged like a couple weeks ago was like 52 per game.
But either way, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'll say just the continued dominance. Obviously, I will say it's getting a bit more and more interesting as we're nearing tourney time here.
Absolutely.
But I mean, just at the end of the day, they're doing what they need to do. You put up 60, 70 points, they're going to win. I mean, you see them shooting 40%. And actually, I believe the star or the note of the game was Lauren Bodine hitting 5 3-pointers there.
And
I think that was.
She's gonna have nights like those. She's a dead eye shooter.
Something that I kind of want to bring up with women's basketball is, granted, I've never been into collegiate women's basketball till this year, being color man for Brendan Polai on WMEB, your home for Maine Sports. But
Shameless.
That's a good plug.
But anyways, I was actually flipping through the channels the other day on ESPN, and I caught it was a ranked NCAA women's basketball matchup. So I said, well, why not? I want to see what else is out there. And I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, this isn't that much better than the product I watch at the CIC. Granted, if it's two great or if it's two, they're both ranked, so they're pretty, good teams obviously, and they're going out against each other. So obviously they're going to make each other look, not as good as they are. When I go see Maine women's basketball beat up on maybe a lower team in the America East, the level of competition isn't the same, isn't consistent. But the fact remains, I think that I'm not saying they're going to be NCAA champions or anything. They could go a couple rounds.
I mean, that's what I was saying.
They could win round 1, maybe put a team in the edge for round 2.
I'm gonna bring up the bracketology because someone sent me an article the other day.
I say you're beating me to it there. But since it's your sport, Brennan, I'll let you.
My sport.
Yeah, mine
just
too.
like hockey, it would be my thing to bring up if Maine was even considered for bracketology. That would be my thing.
Yeah,
but
you're in the back of the car right now. I'm riding shotgun to Brendan and Alex. How do you feel about that?
and then Mike and I are hanging out in the back seat for women's ice hockey.
Yeah.
Heyo.
Women's ice hockey's underrated. They're great.
All right, so the current matchup would be in Durham, 14 seed Maine versus 3 seed at large bid Duke.
The Dukies.
So that would
So they'd be pulling number 3 Duke right off.
Yep.
Ouch.
Absolutely right off.
In the Greensboro bracket.
I'd say it could be done.
I mean, if they're anything like the Duke men, then they probably just choke out in the first round.
Hey! For bracketology.
No, hey, that's my first round upset. Almost often than not, that and Harvard. Always got to take
Okay,
them
let me put it this way.
I can't wait for bracketology.
That's
This is gonna be
insane.
March Madness is gonna be so fun.
Brendan, maybe you probably know more than me, but remember, I think it was 2 years ago when Brittany Grimes, the man-woman from
Griner.
Baylor-
Griner.
Brittany Griner, okay.
Yeah.
So is there any
Joanna man.
He-Man woman like that in the NCAA women's?
I have not. See, I would know because ESPN would make
Right.
some massive story
if
about
there
it.
is no He-Man woman in the NCAA,
Joanna man.
if there's no one like that, then I really do think that it is. Basketball is why we love it so much. Is it's one of those sports where almost anything can happen in any game, as we've seen on so many Cinderella stories. The fact that it might not happen all the way to the finals, but you have teams. What was it? I think George Mason was one of the ones.
The year that Maine beat Florida Gulf Coast made it all the way up.
There you go. So it's like, that's right. Okay, so you never really know these things. But women's basketball, I think the fact is if you get one athlete that is just so good. I think of Candace Parker way back in the day. Who did she play for? UConn?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Right,
Oh, my
right.
goodness. That's right. You just look at it. I think that women's basketball is really the one sport where if you have one player, you can just dominate. So if there isn't that type of player in this year's crop of student athletes, then I really do think that, the UMaine Black Bears could maybe make a little bit of a splash.
And here's my thing I'll say with the women's basketball. I would say almost everywhere, except for, and this is just how pretty much women's basketball has been, unless you're pretty much one of the teams that's always been there. Notre Dame, Tennessee, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Stanford's projected as a 5. Though I would say the other surprise is pretty much if you're number 1, you're almost guaranteed you're going to make it through if you're the top seed in the conference. Because obviously, yeah, everything else I think could completely be up in the air, and I think that's what we're talking about. Really, anything could happen on any given night in March Madness. That's what makes it probably one of the best spectacles, especially in the opening rounds there. But just it's interesting.
I can't wait to start up a bracketology group with you guys. It's going to be so fun.
Though, unfortunately, they've been bumped from the Albany group to the Greensboro regional there.
Yeah.
Down in Durham, North Carolina.
I would have preferred the Albany bracket, but
I guess it could be worse. They could be in Spokane or Oklahoma City.
Ew, yeah.
Though I think they try to maybe reduce travel costs when they select.
I'm trying to think of what would be the best case scenario in terms of like
Albany.
if I actually wanted to go to one of these.
Albany.
Well, I'm talking about like a first round matchup. There's
Storrs, Connecticut.
Yeah, Storrs, Connecticut. Second of course, being Princeton, New Jersey.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Maine women's basketball is going to be an 8 or 9 seed. So they would then have to be the number 16 seed taking on Connecticut in the first round.
Yeah, I know. That's a
Let's watch on
sacrifice.
TV. Yeah, let's just watch on TV.
That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
What I would love to do, because I've always heard about this place down in Columbia, the Colonial Life Arena, which is where the Gamecocks play. I've heard it's a beautiful basketball facility. They unfortunately cannot host a regional due to their slightly racist state, because they have the Confederate flag on their government grounds.
Interesting.
They do get
hearing about
America.
They do get to host it for like.
We'll never die.
Not only the Confederacy.
That's right.
But I mean, they do get They do get to host it in circumstances like this, but otherwise, for pretty much from what I've heard, this building is set for a men's regional. They just can't because the fact the Confederate flag is like I think on the grounds of the State House currently.
I would love.
Are you serious?
Why can't people just drop it? The Civil War happened like 150 years ago.
Well, no.
Who
So
really
the story
cares?
originally was in like 2000, the Confederate flag for the longest time was on the dome of the State House. Now you can imagine the
Isn't
Confederate
that
flag.
part of their flag? Their
somewhere
state flag?
Jefferson Davis just smiles.
I mean, all the southern states sort of have a bit of Confederate flag in their like design. I don't know Carolinas off the top of my head, but so then there was a whole debate about it. So then they moved it off the dome to like some statue on the side of the building. But anyway,
Long story short, can't go there.
Long story short, you know what should be hosting a regional?
CIC.
the Bangor.
Yeah.
I want
that place
How
is
about the-
so nice.
Or the pit, dude.
Or even
Dude, the
It would be so great.
Oh my
that
God.
would be nuts.
Let's go to the half basketball court outside of Knox, between like Knox and Hilltop. Get like and WNBA street type thing right there.
Dude,
like a
that's
video game.
Get Liz Wood with like the game breaker or something.
Liz
watch her,
Wood
like,
and Siggy.
dunk.
Liz Wood and
Yeah.
Siggy there.
cracks
from,
the backboard with a dunk.
Yes.
That would be the
Siggy,
coolest ever.
Siggy oops it
They
to
could probably fill the Alphon if they tried.
oops it to friggin' Bella Swan who oops it to Wood, just like one by one by one.
Just like NBA Street.
That's what I'm talking about. That'd be
NBA
nuts.
Street V3, one of the most underrated PS2 games of all time.
I agree with you, but I also disagree because I don't think it was underrated at all. I thought it was perfectly rated
But
for
I
being
guess-
an awesome game.
But I guess the big thing, before we get ahead of ourselves about bracketology, there is that whole thing about winning America East that has to happen first.
And I
guess to bring it back.
honestly don't
Sadly.
see. I honestly, and I've been saying this for weeks. I honestly
say it.
don't see
Don't say it.
any.
Don't say it.
I don't see any
Don't
situation other than a massive meltdown. Knock on wood. That's not going
how
to
about
happen.
this? So they lose their final two games. They don't get the number one seed. Is that your meltdown?
I still think they could win.
Well, no.
the American East tournament. I would like to see them be the first seed because if they make it to the championship game, then it would be in Bangor, and that would be awesome.
Which you could potentially hear live on WMEB Sports.
Yeah, we're working on it. If that happens, I'll be there hell or high water. That's gonna be awesome.
And I will camp out in the Locked Union to host it there. That's
the Locked Union.
If I'm not anywhere else in the quarterfinals of
Yeah,
Hockey
that's
East.
true. These are gonna.
It's gonna make it interesting. For
I'll do an
travel.
online only feed. How about that? That'll be sweet.
Well, I mean, not that part. I mean, it's more the fact that just figuring out everything in between, which would be ridiculous.
I mean, you and I are in almost constant contact during spring break anyway. Considering every single year we've had
Twins.
every year we've had to coordinate who's going where because I'll be messaging you from Albany and you'll be on your way to like Northeastern or something.
No.
I would love to be to Boston.
Got to check in.
Gotta
Make sure you
check-
guys text each other when
Hi,
you
hi.
arrive, just to make sure
How
you
are
got there
you?
safe.
How was your day?
Did you make it safely to South Bend, Alex?
Oh God!
How
if
was
we're
the
going to
how was
South
the bus
Bend,
ride?
South Bend would be
Oh.
a haul.
That would be awful. But no, this is I literally if Maine can win out and stay the number one seed, It's not like people
Just
would
win out to the end of the basketball season.
People
Just win
will
out.
people will give them trouble, but I think they can overcome it. We've seen it happen.
They just need to win on Thursday. They'll have the number 1 seed.
Well, we've seen teams like Stony Brook, like Albany, give them issue, and they haven't lost since Albany, beat them in the Cross Insurance Center. But then what does Maine do to respond? A month later, goes down to Albany to Sefco Arena, or up to. It's
West. They go left. They go left.
Yeah, it's just a straight shot left, and do the same thing down there and get a win. So I think Maine's getting hot at the right time, and I think that they're going to use this momentum. And like I said, knock on wood, barring some incredible meltdown in the tournament, I think that the number 1 seed. Yeah,
you do have to go and play 2 key games, and which the interesting thing will be their first round matchup if all results will hold. I think will be they might have to play Binghamton, maybe if not Vermont. I'm sorry, actually I was looking at statistics, but either way, you got to win 2 games in a faraway place in Binghamton. I mean, obviously, they've almost done it in Albany like last year. So,
well, they almost did it in Albany. Hartford.
Actually, I stand corrected. They could face Binghamton in the first round, which would make it more interesting because at that point you're playing a home game or playing a road game, I should say, against a team like Binghamton. As lowly as they are.
Can I just mention the fact that they just went to Binghamton and beat them 70-56?
No, you're not wrong.
So there's that.
That point is moot.
It's not that moot considering you could also say, well, it'll be a playoff game, so it'll be a little bit different
atmosphere.
Except it's going to be, if so, it would be the 1 seed versus the 8 seed. In which case, if you're the 8th seed, very rarely are you gonna. Well, at least in America East, very rarely are you gonna have a massive home fan turnout, I guess. But I mean, the fact that they're hosting the tournament will also be an issue. So you could throw in a million different things for this. It's all going to come down to
execution.
It's all a function of execution, people.
Thanks, Red.
Just super quickly here before are we going to the polls here in a second?
In a little bit, yeah.
Just a real quick.
You gotta wrap up.
I have kind of a wrap up.
Any more breaking news?
No. So we're talking about NFL offseason a little bit, tied in with UMaine right now. Obviously, UMaine Pro Day coming up soon.
March 19th.
No Black Bears at the Combine this year, unfortunately. I just found an interesting exercise we can talk about, but I think it would be fun for the WMEB cast to
we got the WMEB Combine.
Do their own Combine. And I actually, listen, and 538, one of the best statistical sites out there with stories and stuff, they actually did a feature with Madden, and we can get our Madden ratings by doing 4 tests.
Oh,
that'd be pretty fun, actually.
My Madden rating is going to be through the basement.
The 4 tests are speed, the 40-yard dash. The strength one we have to figure out because obviously
strength would be different.
No one can bench 225.
Go to the rec center.
I get crushed.
So even if we do these 3, so how fast can you run a 40-yard dash? What is your vertical? Ooh. And how far can you throw a football?
over them mountains.
Speed rating, jumping rating, and throw power rating for Madden.
We should maybe consider this. Maybe
we got to do this once the snow leaves.
Yeah,
maybe.
I was just benching today at the gym. I've been training up for just this moment.
Let's see what we can do at the field house. I mean, or not the field house. The
rec.
I actually did. I just challenged.
The dome.
Telling Poli we should go play basketball too, but
yeah, I know.
He's scared.
Well, no. Number 1,
scared.
I was hurt when you messaged me that.
He knows I bring buckets just all day.
On Brandon, if we're gonna do this,
I'm bigger than you.
Throwing out random breaking news.
I will stuff you.
Of players being released. This just in 2 minutes from SportsCenter. AJ Hawk has been released by the Packers.
Just telling Adam what a perfect
Bye-bye.
Miami Dolphin he would be. Seriously. Seriously.
Oh, you're being sincere.
Yes, they need a middle linebacker. He's a solid middle linebacker.
That's what you were talking about when we came back on air. Yeah. Okay. I'll take that.
But anyway,
we're closing in, so I want to do our nice little wrap up
basketball
situation.
I just like doing that.
No, seriously, if sometime this spring you guys want to play some pickup, I mean, I will dig out my gym sneakers, and I'll go jog down the court.
Have you at least been there once this semester, so you don't have to sign the waiver? Have you at least been there once this semester?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This semester? Oh no.
Or I mean this year I should say.
Yeah, I'm
academic year.
I usually get through that early just in case I decide to make the gym a habit, which some years I've been good at. This year not so much. So let's move on to our final segment, which we always do. And to wrap up basketball, you could hear men's tonight at 7, women's tomorrow night at 7 here on WMEB. Zarko night tonight, Courtney night tomorrow night. As both teams only have 1 senior, it's going to be interesting.
Well, it's good news for the program, I guess.
It is good news for the program.
I mean, it gets bad news if you're the men because Zarko Valjevic is pretty awesome. So
I'm going to miss Zarko. But
I think we're all gonna miss Zarko.
Zarko.
all right, so we're moving on to Sports Nation polls. This one caught my eye, and I figured we'd get a wide variety of answers, and I already know mine. What will you be the most excited about on May 2nd? And no, graduation is not on that list, so I can't tick that.
Because graduation's May 9th, by the way.
Well, I'm going to be excited.
Or commencement.
Well, I'm going to be excited the week of that because I'm almost going to be done with my college career, hopefully.
Either way.
May 2nd, Mayweather versus Pacquiao, the NBA playoffs, the NFL draft, or the Kentucky Derby. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I mean, I would
none of the above.
Well, I will go with
the sunshine.
If this was 6 years ago, I would say Mayweather Pacquiao without a doubt. Because don't get me wrong, this is an excitement that it's been years in the making. Problem is just this is not in its prime like it would have been.
No, see,
even a few years ago.
I've already got an argument for that. So,
but I mean, I would go with I'm just gonna go with the draft just because I like watching the draft.
Okay.
I'm a boring person.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to go with me personally right here, obviously I'm going to go with the NFL draft. But I will tell you, if the Celtics do make the playoffs, I don't know what round that would be. You laugh. I think the Celtics have a better shot at making the playoffs than the Bruins do. So I think the Celtics are a team that I've actually enjoyed watching them lately. I think Isaiah Thomas brings a lot of energy to that team. If they're in the playoffs, they're right up there too. And then I go Kentucky Derby, and I literally could care less about two has-beens in the boxing world going at it finally after their careers are pretty much over.
Yep.
And it doesn't even matter who wins or who loses because they both made a buttload of money, and they did this for a reason.
Boston's only 2 games out of the playoff picture as of right now.
I'm telling you, laugh.
In hockey or basketball?
Basketball.
Nah, hockey. The Bruins
Hockey,
have been
I
on
think
a
they are
slide. They're in the last.
The Panthers are creeping up on them.
If you say that's a slide, you need to.
Compared to how they ended the first half of the season.
This is a.
They are. I mean, they were.
This is an
good to begin with.
avalanche. This is an avalanche.
Yeah, where they
Unfortunately,
lost,
Patrick was not coaching that team.
Yeah, but either way, I think the Bruins are still clinging on to that last wild card spot.
Not
but
for
either.
long.
Yeah, no, I don't imagine unless they start
Krejci out
winning.
now too?
That made me sad.
Watch out for the Flyers, though. I think
Watch out for Milan Lucic to actually step up and do something once. Yeah.
We'll see. I guess my answer is the. Like I said,
Kentucky Derby.
I think
Run, horse, run!
I'm gonna honestly have to go with the Derby because I honestly don't care about anything
Actually,
else.
the Derby is a sneaky good choice just to see the amount of athletes that go there to get totally messed up.
Whoa!
Benjamin's
Molly.
Brady was definitely on something there. All these NFL players, I don't know if they're on Adderall or what it is, but they are
acid.
They are
Ecstasy.
out
Molly.
of their minds. They are not sipping mimosas there. That is not what that tulip, mint julep, whatever they
Mint
drink
julep,
there.
yeah.
It's not just that.
I'll say my most enjoyable part is watching rich people whine and complain when their team doesn't win. That's probably one of my favorite parts. Like the guy from I don't even know who the guy was that won the 2.
The California Chrome.
Thank you, California Chrome. When his owner just gets set.
Okay.
Rich
That's
people,
that's a whole discussion for a different day. I totally agree with him. I will go against you on that. I just go. I'm sorry.
All right.
I agree with him.
Adam hasn't made his pick, has he?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I really don't have too much of a preference for any one of those. Mostly because it's baseball
Yeah, I was gonna
season,
say
I
baseball
don't really
in its
care about
second
anything
month, yeah.
else.
Whoever the Giants are playing on May 2nd, I guess is what I'd be
Exactly.
most excited.
I guess I'm going to have to go with the Kentucky Derby. because
Yeah!
It's one of the very few things that matters.
Yeah.
Well, I like.
We'll get the
And then
opponent.
the NBA
I like.
playoffs.
Well, see, here's the thing. I like where the nation lines up with the rest of us because 7%, no state, outright picked the Kentucky Derby. Not even Kentucky. So that's pretty funny.
They just don't care.
I'm sorry,
in
do-
Kentucky, it's
do
not,
the- I was gonna say, do the ritzy people in Kentucky have used Sports Nation, or is this the common people?
I'd rather see an average in-house GDP difference in this. 'Cause I think the upper echelon would be Derby. Then you'd have the Mania Pacquiao fight because that would be pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Then after that, I think you would have.
The Middle America will be the NFL draft.
Playoffs.
I think the NFL draft would be above NBA playoffs.
Okay, it is in this one. The draft is at 26%. The only state outright that picked it was Montana. NBA playoffs at 17%. The only state that picked that outright.
Florida.
Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Oh, by the way, Adam, the Giants are playing the Angels on May 2nd.
50% of America chose Mayweather Pacquiao, including myself, only because
Go ahead, Brandon.
only because of my ties to
Skip Bayless.
I hate Skip Bayless with a passion.
That's why I said it.
Good one,
Mostly because my girlfriend is Filipino, and I'd be dishonored if I didn't root for Manny Pacquiao.
Well, I mean, I'll be
They treat that like their Super Bowl.
do they?
Well, I mean,
They do.
Well, I mean, Manny
All right,
It's
Pacquiao.
nuts.
Manny-
It's absolutely insane how crazy like Filipino
So
families
did they
go.
want to like? So were they super mad when he lost the last fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And here's the thing. I think Pacquiao could have beaten Mayweather in his prime. Now I think Mayweather's going to win. And I think that Mayweather knew that, and that's why he held out, plus the money
They
issue.
both knew that.
Well, I mean, essentially that's where I go with. I'd cheer for Pacquiao. Well, I mean, for many things, Mayweather is an
I just don't
incredible.
like-
He's an incredible dirtbag. If you've ever read anything about
He likes the
Floyd
Patriots
Mayweather,
though, so
I just don't like him.
still, if you've heard,
I just don't like him. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I would say I'm a Pacquiao.
All right,
guy.
so let's move on to that. Who do you think's going to win that fight? Mayweather or Pacquiao? That's another
Mayweather.
poll.
Well, the question is, would it be a knockout for Mayweather, or if it's a judge's decision?
This is actually closer than I thought it was going to be.
Nobody
I
wins
go-
because
I'll-
they're punching the crap out of each
I'm gonna
other.
go.
so
I'm
they're
gonna
both
go
ending with
judge's
less brain
decision.
cells.
I'll say judge's decision for Mayweather.
Yeah, no, there's no way he's losing his undefeated streak on a
Yeah.
on a decision.
Sure.
You want to
It's
pay the $100 for that
it's-
pay per view?
it's
That's what it is.
It's gonna be $100, I believe, for the pay per view.
or if you have internet, it's going to be free.
Yeah, right.
Just like a lot of things.
56-44 favor Mayweather. 3 states picked Pacquiao outright. New Mexico, Hawaii, and Alaska.
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either.
No comment.
No comment.
All right. you
This
go.
one's interesting.
Next
Okay.
poll.
This one
They
I
all
think
are.
this one is going to this one I think would actually spark the last 5 minutes of a debate.
Here we go.
right, let's
Should true freshmen in college be allowed to play college football and men's basketball?
No, they shouldn't.
What? Why is this even a question?
Yeah,
It's
like,
stupid. What?
That's a stupid question.
It's like, oh, it should like. What? I'm not even gonna answer that.
I'll go with no. I don't think they should do it like the old days, which I don't even know when the switchover was, but there was a time and period when freshmen could not play sports. I think it's better for the development, at least in basketball. I'm not sure so much in football. Definitely in basketball, the guys should be there for at least a second year, in my opinion. That's just me.
Wait, should freshmen be able to play?
Should
like,
the question reads, should true freshmen be allowed to play college football and men's basketball?
so like both?
Yes.
So 2 sport athletes.
Yes.
What? Sure. Why not?
Yeah, I was gonna say why.
Why not? If they can work it out with their coaches and their
Wait,
whatever.
Wait,
let
the
them
question,
do whatever they
wait,
want.
the question is the circumstance of a two-sport
Right.
athlete, not just if football
That's
and basketball players.
I'm reading you the question exactly as it's worded.
Well,
So
no,
blame
but-
Sports
Well,
Nation.
no,
Bo Jackson.
Well, no, no. This has nothing to do with two-sport athletes. The circumstances coming up that there are some people who are considering whether or not to sit out freshmen. Period. Regardless if there's two-sport athletes or just a one-sport athlete.
So this is saying should freshmen at all be allowed to play a sport? Is what
So,
it is to say.
basically-
So stop. So I think that is stupid, especially in both actually, because the fact is these professional, the NFL and the NBA now make, or maybe it's the NCAA, but there are those restrictions where a athlete has to stay in college for so long. In the NBA, I think you have to stay in college
it's
for
just literally 1
year,
year.
and then the NFL I think is 2 though.
3.
Okay, so you need 3. So I think that is ridiculous because now you're putting it another whole year of training, which I get with the maturation process, but you can have top recruits that maybe they get hurt one of those years before they hit the big cash out payday. Like I think that's I look at athlete rights there, and I think what the system they have now is good enough. A lot of true freshmen in college football don't play anyways because they get redshirted.
Unless, of course, they're ridiculous.
Right, and in that case, whatever. That's so rare in today's college football that whatever. But basketball, I get the point a little bit more. That sport, I'd be more leaning towards yes, doing it. College football, absolutely not, though.
I mean, yeah, and that's almost where I say the point is football, not a big deal. It's definitely because it comes back to the whole basketball, attacking basketball, which has been discussed for years, whether or not they should have these kids there for 2 years. Because I think it's a shame, and I'm not saying that I want Calipari to do more, because that's essentially the people that would be benefiting from this would be guys like John Calipari and whatnot, where essentially somebody hooks onto one of the top recruits is there for more than 1 year. I just think freshmen should have to stay at least for a second year. At least try to get some sort of a
that
degree.
that doesn't have to deal with whether they play their freshman year. It just goes along with whether they're allowed to leave after their freshman year. And
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, so I want to end the show with this. I'm pretty sure we've all talked about this off air. I just want to get quick comments on the issue. The issue with the Baylor running back, his name I can't pronounce because it's really small, and I'm not gonna try to butcher it because my computer is very far away from me. But there was a running back for Baylor who was according to NCAA violations no longer allowed to play because he what lived in someone else's apartment?
No, not that part. He accepted an offer from like a friend, from like a family's like friend who put him in an apartment. So
Okay.
essentially, and I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong in the NCAA. The rule is that essentially he took a gift from an outsider. That's the
Took a gift. That is
Yeah,
the
the gift of having a roof over your head.
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel like that's kind of.
It's
like
only a technicality at this point
it's a
of being
rule,
a gift.
but at the same time, as a moral thing, it's like, come on. But I mean, if rules are rules and they're gonna stand by enforcing them, then I guess you can't just make exceptions because then everyone's gonna look for them.
But the thing that I don't understand is, well, was this kid a walk-on or a big football team?
He's
like,
a walk-on.
He was a walk-on.
oh, well, then what does it matter?
It doesn't matter. You're still subject.
Ah, that's stupid. The
There's
kid needs a place to
Every
live.
NCAA athlete is under the same principles and guidelines. It's crazy to think, but everyone from a cross-country runner, no offense to them, is on the same NCAA guidelines as a kid like Jameis Winston. That's just the fact of the matter. They treat them all the same. So, I don't know. I don't think it's right, but having experience in that field, there is no way that this kid is not going to get off. Like, he did take outside help.
Others would argue that other players who have done maybe worse still got to play.
Right. No, and I agree with that, but like, I don't know. I guess the fact is he broke the rule. He will be punished in some way. Will he lose the rest of his eligibility? I don't think so. But there already has been a punishment. They will do something here, obviously. And it will
Yeah,
figure it out.
he's off the team for now. The athletic director released a statement. He and the player himself released a statement saying that he accepts the ruling and will comply. Obviously, you got to.
I don't know all the guidelines behind it, but so how is he paying for school? I don't know.
I have no
There's a
idea.
lot of questions
Well, I
need to be
think
answered.
it's probably like he has some financial aid because it said something about that. Like he was going to go to Baylor, but then some loan did not work out, so he ended up having to go to community college. Got this whole thing.
Took online courses.
Went on as a walk-on last year.
Honestly, too, not to be mean here, but me thinking practically, if you know you're in that type of situation, why are you playing NCAA Division I football when they're not giving you aid when you need money?
He's
to
apparently
live?
he was working towards trying to get a scholarship. But it
that'd be
sounded
the
like he
only
was. It
reasonable
sounded like
way
he was
out.
maybe not saying he was on the verge
So he was
of it.
literally pulling a Rudy.
He was trying to.
Yes.
Yes, essentially.
Kind of.
He's Rudy Rudiger, except Rudy had a home.
Oh,
Really? He
Wow,
lived,
that
no,
is
because he lived
dark.
in the janitor's closet sometimes.
Oh, well, I mean, like before college.
I mean,
Right?
well, the thing
yeah.
is, well, the thing is,
Well, isn't that the story with this
the-
kid?
Let's
Like,
say the
I don't
part
know.
of the story that still needs to be understood is his family and his circumstances, which no one's talked about this.
No
at all,
one's mentioned it.
Which I'm not saying right or wrong with the situation is. We just don't know the rest. The story just
Yep.
came out today, so we don't even know what's happened in
Yep.
the story. That's what.
But we are 2 minutes past the hour. It was a good
Exactly.
It was a good wrap up. But all of us have to get going places, especially Adam and I, who have to drive to Bangor for the
I got
game.
class.
And Alex has got class, and then has to come back and host the game afterwards. But So you could stay tuned here on WMEB. There will be some action in just a couple hours here. The men's team taking on Hartford on senior night. It will be honoring their only senior, Zarko Valjurevich. And tomorrow night, the same with the women's team honoring Courtney Anderson on senior night. We thank you for listening. We will see you in a little bit, but until then, enjoy some Robo DJ and have a good evening.